We're live.
Sweet.
Back in it. All right.
It's been a couple months.
Couple months. Hopefully, got some new material. It doesn't suck.
Hopefully, we just don't rehash. What ends up happening on my other podcast is we end up seeming to rehash the same things over and over.
Yeah.
You know,
We don't have to try to even do that. We can just start talking about whatever and see where it leads. Fuck it. So, how was your week? Did you have a good one?
it was fine. I came back to work this week. I was off for a couple weeks. I got a nasty concussion. I got whacked in the face.
Another one?
Yeah.
What the fuck did you do now?
Customer's trunk came down and hit me in the fucking face. Like right between my eyes.
Yeah?
Yeah, the ER people were like, man, you got strong bones or something. I'm surprised it didn't break your nose. And I'm like, yeah, well, I started getting dizzy. So I'm like, well, okay, I know what I got now. I had an incident report, go to urgent care and do all that stuff and go on workman's comp. It's all taken care of now, you know, and I feel fine now. I recovered pretty quick because I actually did what I was supposed to do to recover from, you know, rather than be all pissed off that I can't do anything. But this time, it's a lot, you know, since I've kind of developed my skills in meditation, just doing nothing and just, you know, being at peace is a lot easier now. So for about a week, I really didn't do anything physical or mental. Kind of just sat there and stared at walls. And
Hey, man, they say time heals all wounds, so you gotta fucking take it easy. You gotta fucking take it easy, I guess.
I'm fine now, obviously, you know.
Suffering from any headaches or anything?
No.
After the fact, though, like first couple days.
You know what? I really didn't get any headaches. Like I just had fuzziness. You know.
Yeah.
But also another big thing. You know, it was about 2 years ago when I got the first one, and my pain tolerance has probably gone up like 25 times since then. Because it's like nobody ever told me that, hey, dude, once you're like 25, 26, your body just gives you the middle finger and says everything's going to hurt now.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, nobody told me that either until, as soon as I turned 25, man.
Mid-20s.
That's when I fucking hurt my back. I was down for fucking a month. Like, that was such a wake-up call. That year was the worst. For the first time, I slipped, fell, busted my face, hurt my back, got my first hemorrhoid. I was like, dude,
yeah,
I just got to end it now.
I got my first hemorrhoid.
Is this going to just keep happening?
25, I got my first hemorrhoid too.
Oh, fuck.
And I have neck problems still. Yeah. I have TMJ. Believe it, of all the things, I used to get headaches a lot, but I don't really get them that, like now I get like, the reason I keep going like that is because like my eyes and my sinuses are bugging me because of it's going to be warm, but it's also going to rain. Yeah. You know, it's all the weather changes we've had lately. But the worst pain is the TMJ sucks. It hurts. Do you have TMJ? Yeah, so you do too. Does yours hurt?
It doesn't really hurt. I get that calcium buildup more than anything. And there's a lot of pressure, but it doesn't really hurt. It just annoys me. Some days, though, this side just...
It flares up. When TMJ hurts, literally nothing makes it go away. No. You can take like 7 Advil. I mean, you probably need opiates to make it go away, and I don't have opiates.
When it hurts, the best thing to do for me when it fucking flares up is I just bite down as hard as I can to try to fucking... And then it just slowly loosen it back up. But, yeah, sometimes that motherfucker just kicks in. It kicks in. There ain't nothing you can do about it.
I learned a couple jaw strengthening. They're kind of like isometric exercises for the jaw muscles, and I ice it. I haven't had a bad flare up. It's sore today, probably just because of the weather changes. It was bad in the winter. Yeah. I guess just the cold makes it worse.
Same thing with like your joints and shit too. I mean, I don't have arthritis or anything, I don't think, but fuck, dude, when it gets cold, that's another thing I've noticed since I've gotten a little bit older. It's, man, the cold just fucking beats on you, dude. Michigan's kind of sucking as I get older.
I didn't realize I was such a pansy. It's the other way around for me. Like the cold never I like the cold actually, but like the heat, man. I sleep butt ass naked, and sometimes in like those last couple days when we've been in the 80s, no blanket, just
Oh, yeah.
naked, no blanket.
I don't sleep with a blanket at all, even
It's-
in the winter.
It's so freaking hot.
Fuck it. I can't do it.
I'm just hot, naturally hot, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just
Stud.
yeah. I wish I wish it was that kind of hot. Yeah, but you know, just sweating your ass off, and I can't get fat. If I get fat, it'll be worse. There's motivation to say skinny.
Yeah, that's what I've come to realize too. Since I've been getting older, I'm like, fuck, I need to start
Not to mention,
really taking care of this. And it sucks because I'm trying to. When I was 19, fucking stacked, dude. I was shredded.
I remember.
Now I'm fucking 25. I got fucking damn near man boobs, jiggling all over the place. Working out is so fucking hard to do. Like, it's not hard to do, it's just hard to start.
Mhm.
Once I do it, I can work out, man. I'll fucking go. But just getting up and doing it like that it's like getting up and going to work on a Monday, man. Just you gotta do it, but if you don't, you're just fucked.
Yeah, the motivation for exercise is definitely the hardest part.
I think when I was younger, it was a lot easier to be motivated because I was doing things like boxing and trying out for
Well, and
MMA,
you weren't like working your ass off every day.
No,
back
yeah.
then, like you are now, and
Yeah.
you got bills and all the shit you got to worry about
Mhm.
once you're older. You know, 19. Do you remember being 19? Let's take a trip down memory lane.
That
19,
seems like a long time ago.
teenager. Or even before that, 16, 17. Just how I know you and I always had anger problems,
Yeah.
and like just going to like lunch in high school or something. Oh, just steaming about some stupid shit, right? Stupid teenage shit, and it's like I wish somebody could have just grabbed us by the necks and said, "You have no idea. Wait until life really fucks you. It's coming in a couple years."
I don't know if that's necessary. I think it was a good thing to have all that fucking. I think it was bad, but I think it's natural that you get all that anger. You're in a cesspool with a bunch of fucking other kids who are going through the same thing, but you don't want to relate because they're in a different clique or whatever. Or I feel like I could float around to everybody, but I wasn't always accepted. But
Hey, can we be friends?
Yeah, okay, can we be friends? Well, who do you hang out with?
Who are
Oh,
you?
I hang out with him, and him. Oh, fuck him. No. The one guy that fucks everything up? Yeah. Okay, fuck you too. Okay. But you just steaming up with all that fucking anger and you ain't really got an outlet, and then as soon as the bell rings, fucking go fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then you go to sleep and you wake up and start it all over again. And for me, fucking gym was the worst.
Yeah.
Especially sitting there like, and then remember how they had us all line up in lines like 5 or 6, like a grid, pop, 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 pop. I'd always get stuck behind like the cheerleaders and shit, and we're doing the fucking weird yoga stretches. I'm like, my fucking gym shorts were real loose. I'm like, tucking that fucker into the waistband. Like, oh shit. Do a sit up.
Major League Baseball. Major League Heavyweight wrestling. Fat people.
Yeah, something. Shit.
My dad. Just think about anything that's complete opposite of anything that would turn you on. You know?
That was a fucking rough one, man. I hated that.
Yeah, I hear you. I wish I'd have discovered meditation years ago. That would have helped me so much back then.
I can't fucking do it. I tried once,
Really?
twice. I don't know. I more or less end up just. I do, however, want to try a deprivation tank.
Yeah, I want to do that too.
There is one, I think, in Madison Heights. It's like $30 or $35 for an hour.
Yeah,
You can go and just plop them
I
some
think
cash.
I saw that on Google because I Google searched deprivation tanks around here.
Yeah, I think I might end up one day going and checking that out. I think
that'd be
that'd
cool.
probably be. I don't know, just the whole idea of being left alone with just your mind is kind of like a. I don't know. For me, it's kind of like even unfathomable. I can't even imagine it. I don't know.
Meditation is really just about it's contrary to like popular belief. It's not about not thinking and closing your mind. It's not about that. It's about kind of the way I envision it, the way I conceptualize it in my head is like I imagine my thoughts as like a river or a stream, and I try to detach myself as just an observer of the stream of thoughts going through my head, you know, because you can't your brain thoughts just arise on their own. You can't control that, you know.
Right.
So like you'll be trying to think, I mean, trying to meditate and focus on your breathing, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, did I do that thing, or did I send that bill, or you know, should I go for a walk? What do I eat today? Am I fat? When's work tomorrow? Well, what's Justin doing? But then like you realize, oh, I just got distracted, and then you bring it back, and you literally do that. Some days I think I feel like I do it. Like say I do a 10 to 20 minute session. Some days I feel like I'll do it 2 or 3 times, and I'm really focused and feeling really good. Other days it feels like I did it like 500 or 600 times if my mind's racing or something, you know.
Right.
So it's just about realizing that you got lost in thought for a second, and then going back to the breath or whatever you're trying to focus on. Sometimes it's not your breath. Like there's different kinds of meditations. The body scans are really nice for relaxation. That's about like they usually, at least for the app I use, you start at the top of your head and you slowly go down the rest of your body, just feeling whatever you can feel on your own body, and it releases the tension.
Oh, you were a runner for a while. Do you still do a lot of the running stuff?
No, like when I first got my concussion, and well, actually not really the concussion, my neck injury, I tried running again, and like my neck muscles would tense up and I would get a really nasty tension headache. So I've been scared to run honestly for 2 years, but like the last week or two I've started getting up early in the morning and I go for about a half hour to an hour walk. So I figured, okay, for a few weeks I'll walk, you know, and I'm feeling pretty good. And once I feel confident enough, I'll try to run like a half mile or something.
Gauge it up a little bit.
Yeah, and just slowly in small increments. I don't want to push myself too. I think maybe the reason I got it last time is I pushed myself too hard and started running fat, you know, going the speed I was doing before.
Right.
But like, yeah, I'd really like to start running again. But I mean, at the same time, like not doing it consistently for 2 years, I'm not sure if my knees are really going to accept it, you know.
Yeah, I think you'd have to work up to it, like you said.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not impossible. You got fucking people who are 60 years old running marathons.
That's
so.
true.
I don't think that's
true.
I think it's just a determination thing, how bad you really want it. But what I was getting at was, do you feel more relaxed after, say, like an intense run or workout, or do you feel more relaxed after meditation? Or is it two totally different things I'm not getting?
Well, like after a run, I'll feel, you know, you get like a runner's high, which is like an endorphin buzz, but you can get that from I mean you can get that from weightlifting, from any kind of intense exercise, but it seems like cardio really does that, you know, for me anyway. But like it really depends. Like I feel like my body's more relaxed after a run. But for meditation, my mind is more relaxed, you know.
Now, do you feel like if you had to do something like weightlifting instead of running, where maybe you got to focus more because the stakes are higher? If you don't lift right, you could fuck yourself up when you're running. Like, do you think that'd be almost the same as meditation? Because you're kind of... Well, you said it's more about opening your mind than closing your mind, but is that the same thing as focusing hard on something? Because if you're focusing on your breathing, you're kind of letting everything else drown out, right?
Yeah, meditation it's principally about training your mind to focus. So like you want to usually the focal point is your breath, but like I said, there's a lot of different kinds of meditation. You could have a mantra, you know, and like a Buddhist monk would have or something, or you can focus on a flame if your eyes are open, or you know, just repeat something in your head. And there's a lot of different techniques I've learned to try to focus on my breath more, you know. But yeah, deepening your concentration and your focus and quieting your mind as best you can is basically that's the point of meditation, you know, because it's, you know, because the biggest problem most people have, unless you have like a clinical issue with anxiety or depression, but meditations can still help those people. But I think when most people have anger or anxiety or depression, when they claim they have those things, they're just really stressed out, you know?
Yeah, they're just latching onto a just
Emotions.
for some kind of label for it.
Yeah. Like we're all humans, so you've done this before where you have this nasty cycle of thoughts that just goes down in a spiral and gets worse and worse cuz you let it
Right.
basically. Like cuz you follow your thoughts. But meditation can teach you like there's a lot of moments where I'm like when I have negative thoughts and I'm like wait a minute, that's just a negative thought. It's just a thought. Thoughts are temporary because that's what meditations teach you. And then you just push it aside and just focus on what you're doing, you know. And that's a good way to reduce your stress level when you're not because when you overthink stuff is when you get stressed out. You know, there's physical stress and too much physical stress is bad, but physical stress exercise is physical stress, you know.
Well, there's good and bad kinds of physical stress then too.
Yeah, exactly. And like a
It's
good
probably good and bad mental stress too.
yeah, like a good mental stress would be reading an intense book or it's really dense or really deep
Yeah,
or
it consumes a lot of your attention.
I'm not a neuroscientist, but I'm sure like
Very descriptive words that make you have to paint a picture.
yeah, or you're writing or what if you listen to Beethoven or something super stimulating. I'm sure that's a lot of mental stress, but that's not the same mental stress as being I don't know, being carjacked or,
Right.
having a fight with your wife or something like that. You know what I mean? And meditation can help you with all those things. You know, I think exercise and meditation are, there's obvious exceptions, but I would say are pretty much universally good for you to
Right.
do. You know, like obviously exercise, you got to know your limits, you got to know your limitations and your capabilities. You can't like exercise is good for you, but you can't be like, hey, I'm gonna be, Anderson Silva tomorrow. It's like, no, that's not gonna
Right.
happen.
You gotta have realistic goals.
Yeah, yeah. It's like anything else. In meditation, you have to you got to be realistic too. You're not gonna be the Dalai Lama and meditate for 3 hours and bring your heart rate down to like 8 or something. That's
Right.
not gonna happen.
You're not gonna meditate and wake up 16 hours later.
No, yeah, and it's not like you're gonna reach some kind of meditative state. That's possible. But that takes years of practice.
My neighbor claims, well, my ex neighbor used to live above me. He claims that he got into it pretty hard for about a week. And he ended up stopping because every time he'd do it, he'd end up fucking bawling his eyes out.
Really?
I don't know why or how or he got. I think it was because he just got out of a bad breakup and then he was kind of like
Stuck with his thoughts.
yeah, mixing signals maybe.
Yeah.
But
Then he wasn't. I'm not going to judge anybody, but
Right.
I would assume he's probably not meditating correctly. That
Right.
he's allowing the thoughts to take him. Like I said, that's the problem with when people say that they're going to do meditation and they go into it with a misconception that hey, I'm supposed to not think.
Now, when you come out of like meditation, do you end up feeling sharper thoughts, or is everything kind of like relaxed, as in like all your thoughts are also relaxed? Or when you have a thought, it's more focused, bam, sharp. Oh, clear now.
One thing I've noticed, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'll be able to word it really good, but like if I had a really good session, like I had a good one today actually, but I've had better. But there's like one time I meditated, I think for a half hour or so a little longer than normal. Like another thing, my neck also affects my meditation too, because you want to be in a relaxed position. Like I don't sit lotus style or anything. I can't cross my legs. That hurts.
Oh, lotus
my
is
knees.
like Indian
Yeah.
style.
Yeah,
Okay.
like when you're like like that. I don't do that. I just sit in a chair, like this. And but having my neck upright for extended periods can bug it. It can get stiff. Not as bad as it used to be because I'm a lot better at stretching and stuff. But one thing I have noticed, like about that one time excuse me, I did it for about 30 minutes, and I did it. It was a concentration meditation specifically, and I used the app. Excuse me, damn. I used the Calm app. I don't know if you heard of that. It's called Calm, and it's a meditation app, and it's got I mean, you can have unguided, but most of it's like guided meditation. And there's this woman that every couple minutes will give you some instructions.
Yeah, I
you
have.
know?
Chelsea has that. She's tried that on herself.
Like Headspace, man. You know, Bill Burr
Yeah.
advertises that one. That's the other one, another one. I've never used that one, but Calm is really good. But that one, when I came out of that one, what I did notice for about an hour, about a half hour to an hour before my thoughts fucked it up, was I felt like I was almost purely conscious, meaning that I didn't daydream, thoughts didn't really arise. I was completely in experience with whatever I was doing
Yeah.
until I realized, wow, this is crazy. And I'm like, oh shit.
And you fucked it
yeah.
up.
Yeah. And then I got lost. I'm like, what am I going to do later? And, you know, and you just naturally do it because you're human, you know?
I did. I was on Reddit, I don't know, probably like 2 years ago, and I was on like the life hacks subreddit section
Yeah.
fucking thing, and I was like scrolling through.
Yeah, you
blah,
can
blah,
get
blah.
lost on Reddit for a
And
long
I clicked
time.
on one, and it said, if you got anger problems, you know, check this out, or stress problems, because at the time when I was at work, I was kind of breaking through to that next level at work where I'm starting to get more responsibility. A lot of things rely on me to, you know, I have to deal with people, I have to get people to do something or whatever the fuck it was I was doing, or maybe not I needed to do it, but like I felt like I wanted something done in a timely manner and other people weren't, so I'd get frustrated and I'd start screaming and yelling and shit and like
Yeah.
getting pissed. And I was like, I gotta find a way to fix this or I'm gonna be an HR nightmare. So I was like, okay, oh yeah, anger problems, check that out. And I thought I uncovered this huge fucking secret nobody fucking knew about.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, it works. The thing told you, it said, all right, breathe in through your nose for 10 seconds. Hold your breath for 10 seconds and let it out your mouth for 10 seconds. So I did it and I fucking just went, my
Yeah.
heart rate slowed and I was like, dude, I just figured something out. Nobody ever fucking knew. I came home. Chelsea was mad. I was like, I'll tell you something. She's like, what? I'm like, I told her what to do. She's like, it's like a meditation thing. It's part of like a meditation thing.
There's a
It's like one step of some fucking thing she said. I was like, oh, fuck you.
there's a section of guided meditations on the Calm app called Calming Anxiety, and it's almost just like that, where rather than 10 seconds each once, this one does it about, you do it for about 4 or 5 times, and it's, you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 8 seconds.
Okay.
It wasn't specific about nose or mouth. I always breathe in and out through my nose when I meditate. So, and you do that about 4 or 5 times, and then bring your one thing I do to focus on my breath when I'm meditating is I'll breathe in and count 1, and then I'll breathe out and count 2. If I know, I do that mostly if I notice I'm starting to lose track, you know, of what I'm
Right.
of my breathing. But that's basically the same thing. Like I did that today actually because work was starting to piss me off, and I'm like, there's always just one. I don't know if you experience this at work, but there's always just one little thing like where you feel like you're getting irritated, but you're like, okay, whatever, not, you know, it's not a big deal. But then there's just one little thing that happens, and you're just like, I gotta go on break, and I just literally said it like that. I'm going on break, and I walked off because like, because like we were getting really busy, and then it's funny now, you know, but at the time I didn't think it was funny. But we're trying to bring all the stuff back inside because it's gonna start raining, right? So and we're busy at the same time. The truck was still there, so we had all these things going on at once, and one of my managers walks out and stands there staring at us, and then staring at the cars and stuff, eating a fucking candy bar. And I was just like, I put the stuff down, I looked at him just like that, and I'm going on break, and I walked off.
I thought you were a manager.
I was.
Oh, you're no longer?
No, I
Resigned?
yeah. Yeah, I didn't get demoted or anything. I had a voluntary demotion. I had enough. We kept losing. We were hemorrhaging employees. Like, people kept quitting, and then, like, middle corporate's like, well, you just have to pick up the slack, and I'm like, I'm not 5 people. I can't do that,
Right.
you know. So I said, forget it. This isn't worth it, you know. I'll just take a regular job and I'll have my benefits, and that's it, you know. But yeah, that was so absurd. I was like, are you kidding me? Is this real life? You know how we talked about, like, could everything be a simulation? Sometimes moments like that in life where I'm just like, this isn't real. This is fake. And I saw him. He's really
It's
eating
like
a candy
a
bar.
fucking TV show you're watching where you're just like,
Work is a
what the
TV
fuck?
show. There might as well be a reality TV
I
show.
feel
with
like
every
everybody
work.
feels that way too. Like, you could fucking film my job. You could film my job. I thought about maybe trying to figure out a way to where I could make like a cartoon style, like learn how to like how they do it, and then maybe not like South Park, but like maybe like Archer.
Yeah.
You know how
yeah.
they got that style to it.
Yeah.
If I could do that, I've got the best characters, and they're all real life examples of my job. There's this one guy. He's an old fucking ex-Vietnam vet fucking guy, and he just hates the fucking world. This one dude was sitting there one day, and we were eating fucking sardines. I wasn't eating sardines. The guy was eating sardines. And he's like, "Oh, you want one?" I'm like, "Oh hell no, I'm good, man." And fucking this guy comes in. He's old. He's got a limp. Comes up. He's like, "Hey man, you want one?" Looks him right in the eye. Smacks it out of his hand. And goes, "Your breath smells like shit." Keep
Oh my god. Jesus.
I almost fucking died.
That's terrible.
The guy turns to me and he goes, "It was my lunch." I'm like, "Oh."
Especially since you got sardines all over the place.
Oh, it was gross.
No, that's nasty.
Ooh, it was gross. Well,
That's
it's a
nasty
machine
chips.
shop, dude. There's a lot worse smells than that.
All you guys sweating.
Ooh, it's gross. Fucking Thursday, it was 115 degrees in that motherfucker.
They don't have air or anything?
Well,
AC?
dude, we run hot forging presses, so we're working with 2,300 degree metal. Fucking picking it up and sniffing it and shit. Fuck. It's hot as a motherfucker in there.
It's crazy, man. Yeah. Yeah. The workplace is pretty something else. I mean, like, especially when people, like, some of the stuff people say and do, and you can't imagine them, like, existing in real life.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is really how you act at work. How do you act at home when no one's there to judge you? How much worse are you?
Yeah.
Or like how I don't know how it is at your place, but like they trash the shit out of the break room, and like just the garbage is like this much higher than it should be, and I'm like, is this how you live at home? I don't want to see your house.
Yeah.
You know, that's ridiculous. People are just so nasty sometimes.
People can be very nasty. Yes, they can. There's a grown man. There has to be a grown man, seeing as how the youngest is 19 at my shop, and I know it ain't him. There's a grown man at our work that shits on the fucking walls.
Seriously.
Seriously, he shits on the fucking walls.
Now see where I work, like I work in retail, so you have the general open to the general public,
Yeah.
right? But where you work, you're not. So
No,
you know it's an
somebody
employee.
that works there.
Yeah.
Is shitting on the wall. He backs his ass up. Fucking fire! Bam!
We have something. I have
What the fuck?
my best work friend. His name's Bob, and he's different. He's our. I'm not going to tell you the position actually, because I don't want to give away what the place is. But he works by himself in what he does, but he's he had like in the early 2000s, he had like a wall come down on him when he was working at a builder job, and it screwed up his. He's got like metal on half of his spine.
Yeah, fucked him up.
And he's got severe nerve damage. He walks with a cane, and he's in constant pain. But he's the most kind. Like, he's a true example of a Christian. Like, you know, the ideal Christian. You know, the way he is. He doesn't have any money. He's trying to feed his kids and family. But he'd give you everything he had at that moment. Like the shirt off his back if he had to. But he's also crazy. He probably has Tourette's. And, like, he just screams. Like, ah! Just out of nowhere. Like, yeah, but he doesn't cuss. He doesn't cuss ever. But he can be really dirty, and he's just a funny. He says random. The reason I think he's got Tourette's is because he'll just blur out random stuff. He'll just be like, yeah, the bicuspids. And I'm like, bicuspids? What are you talking about, Bob? Bicuspids. And he'll just scream. It's just funny as hell. But, like, he has something he calls them. Sometimes he'll just be like, yeah, that's the Meyer special. Just start laughing. Then what that means, that's code word for what you were talking about. Just shitting all over the place. Because one day, this happened about a year ago, but we've joked about it since then. Before work, he went to Meyer at like 6 or something to pick something up, and he had I gotta go. So he went to the bathroom because he had to pee or whatever, and the urinals were out of service, so he had to go to the stall. He opened the door. He's like, it wasn't even around the toilet; it was just around the walls, and he's just like, man. Somebody doesn't like working here. How do you, and I asked him, I'm like, how do you, as a grown, unless there were somebody like with a mental, illness or just maybe a deficiency of some kind, if you're not that, and you're not a child, and you're a grown adult, like, what makes you think that how do you walk away from that? You're like, I did that, but I'm going to walk away now.
That's mine.
That's just, unless you did it absolutely on purpose, There's no way that this, like, sometimes it could potentially be an accident, right? But this was like, Bob was like, he aimed away from the toilet on purpose.
There was effort put into this.
Yeah. Like, he had to have lifted himself up. And he's like, how did he get... And Bob was like, one thing I was wondering is, how did he get it up there? Like, as high as it was. I'm like, oh.
He's deconstructing the crime scene.
God, that is just terrible.
That's awesome.
That is just so nasty.
That's fucked up.
So nasty. Yeah, you gotta meet him sometime. He's unlike anybody you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that you meet him and you hang out with him for a little while, and he is distinctly his own person.
Yeah.
He's not like anybody else.
He goes to his own drum.
Yeah, and work.
Yeah, fuck it. Work sucks. Everybody knows it. Except unless you got a really badass job and you love doing it.
Yeah.
I've never really met anybody like that, to be honest. I don't know if it truly exists, because at some point it's got to feel like work.
I'll tell you what, man. I can't think of an example at the moment, honestly.
If there was something I could do right now where I knew I'd be making enough money not only to be set, but to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. But I'd have to be there every day. You know what you mean? Is like, fuck. What would you do?
Well, that kind of reminds me of did you watch the JRE with Dan Harris and Sam Harris? That happened. I think I heard little bits and pieces of it. I wasn't focused on it. Dan Harris they're not related, but he's like a ABC reporter. I think he hosted Nightline or something for a while, but they ended up talking about like universal basic income. I don't know if you know what that is, if you're aware of that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's basically is that communism or is that universal basic income, which means erasing the amount of every other dollar in just one currency for everybody?
No, it's not the second one. I guess it would be closer to the first one. It's like guaranteed like salary to all people.
Oh, like you take away from all the 1%ers and you divide it all up amongst everybody evenly. And
yeah, I guess
everybody gets $1,000 per month, whether you're a doctor or a trash man.
No, it's not like not universal. Everyone gets this. It's like the lowest you can get. Like it's not like true communism where it's completely equal.
Mhm.
It's like if you're a doctor, you can obviously make a lot more, but this is what the baseline is.
Oh, so you're gonna get this, and it's more than enough to cover your basic needs.
Yeah, and like no one can go below that. But they were talking
Okay.
about theoretically, like because technology always does this, like it develops. The more technology develops, the fewer and fewer and fewer
People are needed
workforces, you know. And they said eventually it's going to come to a point where technology is going to just
do everything.
do almost everything. You know, like we have self-driving cars, and like the biggest employer, I think they said something. Don't quote me or them because they didn't have any source, I guess, for this. But one of them claimed that the number one um, employment in the United States is trucking or driving.
You got to get shit from A to B. I mean,
Yeah.
Especially now, I think that's even more true now with the rise of like Amazon and being able to purchase things off the internet, because now you're not required to go to Best Buy to go buy what you want. You can click, and now that fucking mailman's got to drive it. And then you get even more and more and more orders. They got to call them. You got to fucking have more people deliver the shit.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would say definitely that's probably, it's not only plausible. I'm almost sure that's probably true.
And they said, especially for men, and especially specifically white men, it's the biggest employment field. And they said that, well, with the emergence of self-driving vehicles, it's only a matter of time. I bet you within a decade that they're going to start
figuring that out.
Yeah, not just for personal use. Like right now, you got to be pretty wealthy, I would assume, to own a Tesla. I don't know how much it costs, but
it's still a prototype too, though. I mean,
yeah.
It's not necessarily foolproof. You still got to be awake and conscious.
Yeah, but well, I'll get back to that. Hold that thought before I forget. But I just wanted to finish this other thing where I bet you within 10 years, this is my assumption, completely unfounded assumption. I have no research to back this up, but I bet you within 10 years they're going to transfer that to all trucking and all that stuff, because well, why pay a driver? Like if I was owner of a company and this technology came out, it's like, well, why am I going to pay a driver?
Why?
You can't unload it. Well, unloading is something else, right?
Not necessarily, because if you can program a vehicle, if you can
Drones.
if you can program a truck at some point in the future to drive cross country and deliver, not only pull in, I don't know if you know how like big ass trucks with flatbeds work, but they have to pull in, reverse, not hit anything, come in, back up, dock, and then lower the either it's a flatbed or it could be a box, and it could drop it down. That's a lot going on. I think you could program a fucking high-low to drive in and go, oh, nav point to A, oh, drop.
That's a lot easier, yeah.
The only physical thing you're going to have to do, I don't even know if it's physical anymore, and, well, yeah, probably the only physical thing that's going to happen to that product where it gets touched is when it gets delivered to the consumer's door and they grab it.
Yeah. Well, there's also like just repairs and stuff like that, obviously. You know, I mean,
things break down.
I would say that in order to have drones that could repair a car, that's probably 100 years from now. That's a lot of work.
It all depends on how easy they want to make everything plug and play.
I don't know. Like I am not an engineer, so I can't. I mean, I wish I could have my buddy Brent on here, and he works at for an engineering company. And
well, the thing is, right now with most cars, back in the day, it was a lot of nuts and bolts and timing and shit had to be perfect for when you do things with like a timing belt, or you know, you want to reset your fucking I want to call it a defibrillator, but that's not it. Distributor cap, which sparks and makes engine. You don't even have that really anymore. But nowadays, what it seems what's going on is you scrap out the whole fucking thing. Like if something happened to, say, your distributor cap or something, you used to be able to replace pieces in it. You don't do that. It's cheaper to actually just pop out, pop in. You're done. Yeah. And a lot of it's all based off of just the computer in the car that just registers everything and goes, oh, okay.
Right.
And if something doesn't communicate, that's when it gets fucked up. Then you go, oh, shit, you know, I can't put a Toyota fucking thing into a Ford thing. They got two different operating systems. It's the same thing, but they don't talk to each other. So you can't fucking do that. But you get everything on a universal scale. I mean, humans have been doing that as far back as the fucking, the metric system. You got pounds, you got stone, you've got standard wrenches and standard bolts, you've got metric wrenches and metric bolts. It's all the same fucking thing, but just enough to fuck it up.
Yeah. Well, and theoretically, like, say if you used as an example, what were we going to talk about? I forgot.
We're talking about
the other thing that I told you to remember. Because I don't remember.
Oh shit! What were we talking about? We were talking about how driving a truck, then you could get a self-driving truck to deliver. Then you could have a self-driving, self-unloading, high-low to drop off the product. Right. How many people would end up losing their jobs, which would be pretty much astronomical. Oh, we were talking about self-driving vehicles and the amount of consciousness required at this time to drive it.
Yeah. Well, theoretically, Sam Harris made this point. I can't say for certain if I agree with him or not, but his point was like, well, a self-driving car is going to be like, just conceptualize if you can, like the whole roadway is all self-driving cars for a minute. Odds are the likelihood of accidents is just going to go way down astronomically, like way more than significantly, probably almost closer to zero, unless there's a malfunction, right? Because they don't have human error. Like the car can't get hung over or tired or drunk or, it can have hiccups, I'm sure, and any computer can screw up. That's why they got to really work this out, right? But even with computer malfunctions, percentage-wise, it's not going to match close to, I can't remember how many deaths there are, like 30, 40,000 or something.
Oh, annually motor vehicle deaths? Yeah, it's high.
In the United States, the number one cause of, like, non-medical cause of death in the United States, I think, is motor vehicle accident. Like, that would go down to probably close to zero, at least under 1,000, right? I would assume, It
all depends, man. I mean, at some point, you're going to have to, especially in the early stages, and this is going to happen. Everybody's got self-driving cars in the early stages. People, in order for me to buy it anyways, I'd be like, well, fuck it. I want a manual option.
Well, I'm sure that's going to be
as soon as you introduce the manual option, okay.
You can. I mean, I'm sure you're gonna be able to do both. But knowing me and how lazy I am, I'd be like, okay, just drive me to work.
Hey, fuck it, dude. That sounds great to me. I would never be late anywhere. I just get in the car. I'd fucking drive a motorhome. Fuck it.
Right.
Self-drive me everywhere. I'll live in this bitch. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and just like.
But you'd have to calculate. It would have to be able to calculate from A to B the fuel required to get there.
Yeah.
When to stop. I don't think you'd have a choice on where or when to stop to refuel, or if you'd even use fuel at all. If it's all run off of electric, that's a huge fucked up. That'd be bad.
Because that's a whole nother
any
issue.
kind of cross country, now you are stuck. You have to stop for the night to recharge your fucking car.
Not to mention like that's the other point I was gonna make was like a self-driving truck for shipment. The driver doesn't have to sleep or eat or stop because there's no driver.
The driver just goes. Boop.
So that's a benefit of it.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing would be, a self-driving car is not going to go over the speed limit, so you can't speed anymore. And I think a lot of people would be like, well, driving is no fun now.
I want that new chip that puts it in there where I can
allows you to speed
5 miles faster.
Yeah. And what if here's another interesting thought. What if Big Brother decides to get involved in this?
Oh, they definitely would.
I mean, they already are involved in our lives. We have our location services turned on our phones all the time.
Shit, half the apps you can't even download without having it.
Yeah, grant permissions to your location.
Yeah,
like, why do you need your Snapchat? Why do you need to know my location?
Why do you need to know my location, all my phones, and why do you need my pictures?
Yeah, exactly. We need access to your phone calls. What?
Why? Yeah, why? Why?
That's a whole other. We can talk about that.
Yeah,
for an hour.
I don't like that.
But it would probably be hooked to the car, and if you hack it and go over, the car's gonna be like, the driver is currently speeding and reported to the cops. And then the cops are like, we have record that your car reported said you were speeding. My car said I was speeding.
Well, technically, if you buy that vehicle, you then possess ownership, and then it is your property. And if your property breaks the law, transversely, you
Break the law.
break the law.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be
So
something.
if your car malfunctions and hits somebody, no, there's a car. Technically,
See, that's when you'll have to. That's another thing. I think they talked about that on the podcast a little bit. Is like insurance companies will it'll completely turn the car insurance industry
would
up on
almost
its
have to
head,
be non-existent.
almost. So like if there is a crash or something and they can indicate, I wonder if there'd be like a black box type device like planes have maybe or something like that, the onboard car computer, because I'm sure a self-driving car is going to have a way more advanced computer than the cars we got now. So it'll have to have a record or something, and hopefully there'll be some kind of error or something where it's like, hey, look, you can prove that this wasn't me. Hopefully that'll happen, because if they can't, like,
Well,
that's
technically,
an interesting
Michigan
thing
would
to think
still
of.
be a non-fault state.
Yeah,
It wouldn't matter if you did it or not. You're still
yeah,
getting hit.
that's terrible.
But back to like, okay, all cars would have to go the same speed limit. Now the speed limit right now is put in place for your safety, correct? So you can't go over a certain speed limit. You're supposed to abide by the 3-second rule, where I'm 3 seconds behind the other driver. So if he decides to slam on his brakes, that gives me more than enough more than enough time to slow down.
Yeah,
So if all vehicles end up being self-propelled, where you don't have to have anything to do with it,
you think
the
everything
speed
will go faster?
limit should fucking rise, right?
Potentially.
Should. Now, what a goddamn nightmare it's going to be if you want to go to the store. Because not only is there going to be designated parking for your vehicles, you're almost going to have to, like, not pre-order, but, what do they call it?
Like designate a
Like, I'm
parking
gonna,
spot or something.
well, you'd have to, like, basically get on your phone and be like, okay, I want to go to Myers, so I have to send a thing to Myers parking lot service that says, oh, we have this amount of fucking spaces available. Okay, well, I'm on my way. It's going to ping there and ping to there, and I'm going to go to Myers right now, and then my car's got to drive me to Myers, and I have to make a reservation to get to fucking Myers. That's going to be the same anywhere, because that's going to be a huge fuck up. If you want to go somewhere, you got to fucking click into where you want to go. The parking lot has to be up to date, so you got to, okay, I want to go here. Okay, well, just like when you go to order a ticket for a concert, you're going to have different seats available. Oh, shit, okay, well, I don't want to park in the back. I'll wait, so I'll put that one on reservation. Okay, I'm queued for 31.
That's interesting. That's an interesting. I never thought of it that way. That's really interesting.
So, I mean, that could be like a whole nother thing. And by the way, to save us, okay, so the whole idea of a self-propelled vehicle is to save us time, take us away from the wheel, so that we can no longer have the human element, whether it's you or someone else.
The stress of driving. Sometimes.
Stress of driving and
Right.
safe, and it should be designated to keep you safe,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But the adverse effect to all that is time management. Getting there is going to be fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna have to drive around in circles to get to your fucking destination.
Yeah.
To wait to pull it.
Or just like what about it? Like, well, see, that's the other. And obviously, we're speaking in theoretical,
very
hypothetical senses. We don't know what it's going to look like, but you'd think that like if all cars were automated, that there wouldn't be traffic jams and issues because all the cars are going to be like, the computer-controlled cars. Like, it's hard to conceptualize a computer-controlled car traffic jam because, well, there's nobody screwing this shit up unless you got construction, like, because, Michigan,
Well,
half the year there's
in
road
the
construction.
day it is right now. I mean, it might be more. 9/11 was horrible.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It affected everybody in their own moral ways. Some people lost people. It was fucking horrible. Don't get me wrong. But if I was a terrorist and I really, really wanted to fuck with your day, and everybody's driving self-propelled cars, All I'd have to do is fucking figure out the coding for that car, cyber hack into it, and I don't even have to kill anybody. I could just make everybody's cars not work.
Yeah.
Or everybody's jammed up right here. Fuck them.
Yeah.
How God, or even better, I could be like, oh, okay, everybody that wanted to go here, well, everybody's going to California today.
Yeah.
And you can't get out of your car, and you're just.
Yeah, that's mayhem.
Oh my God.
You'd have to hope that we'd have some kind of homeland security that can protect, like how we have cybersecurity
Mhm.
today. You'd hopefully we have something to protect the.
I feel
cars.
like even if you're Ford, Toyota, whoever the fuck manufacturer it is, you're all gonna have to be on some sort of grid.
Universal.
A
yeah.
universal grid that recognizes everybody else's car, where everybody's going. It's got to be. That could be one of the. That would be a massive, massive undertaking for the programmer.
We are living in.
Could you imagine the server for every human being in just the United States that owns a vehicle?
Yeah, that's a lot of cars.
Every single person that gets into a vehicle.
I think there's 2 cars for every person in the United States or something like that.
Oh, just made in general?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In China, there's like 1 car for every 10 people or something. It's going to be way the opposite. Like Americans are so luxurious, we need 2 cars per person.
But like I said on our,
That's crazy.
like I said on a previous podcast with, I think technology needs to fucking step back.
Slow down. If anything, it just gets faster.
It gets faster.
Like,
everything.
You know what I thought of about the grocery store thing? That the Meyer parking issue made me think of this. It's like, well, why do we need self-driving cars if we're going to develop 3D printing? Like, what if they make 3D printing so advanced that it's like the replicator from Star Trek?
Oh, where you could put biological material
Yeah.
and create like an apple or something.
Where it's like, hey, I need a 5-pound beef roast. There it is. Like, why do I have to? And the other thing is, if that becomes possible, I think let's forget about shipping and stuff for a moment.
You just solved world hunger.
That all of the farms are now obsolete. There's no reason for a farm. Well, obviously you're not. It's not like Star Trek where here everything's free.
Why not though?
I don't know, but economics, I guess. But you think like that kind of machine would be like, okay, that'll be a couple $100,000.
Yeah, but I mean, even
at first, anyway.
Even in economics, man, you got to think like if I own a fabricator that can create food out of, well, I mean,
Energy.
you'd have to put something into it, like some kind of bio.
Like a gel or something like that.
I don't know if it'd be a gel or I mean, you cut off a finger and you get a
Cellulite.
ham. I don't know how it would work, but I am a huge non-believer in nothing to something. You can't. It's impossible for me to fathom. I'm not gonna fucking even acknowledge that. There has to be something to make something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
Some
how.
kind of raw materials.
Yeah, until some proof comes along that's 100% concrete, you can create something out of nothing. I can't buy it. So, say you take like a dead carcass, because things have to die, as of right now. You take like a dead carcass of roadkill, you put it in there, you can repurpose that. Computer has a program that can fuck with cells and create different genes, and I turn a fucking dead deer into half a fucking pig.
Yeah.
Okay? Unlikely, possible, I don't know. I'm not a fucking scientist. I'm just saying. Cool? Fuck yeah, that'd be badass. But
Well, if you could map the genome and have it on the computer on the record, you could probably do it if you manipulated the DNA.
and I honestly believe
I would
fabricating something isn't really that far off, dude. They're creating fucking sheep and shit out of petri dishes.
Crazy that we live in sci-fi. We're living in sci-fi.
They're
right now.
creating
meat.
out of
Meat
fucking
culture, yeah.
semen from a fucking
Yep.
semen and egg. You don't even need a fucking host anymore. Just bloop.
Yep. I'm a big proponent of meat culture because for a couple reasons. One, I love meat. Sorry, I love eating meat. I'm not going to stop eating meat.
Oh.
But I can see the argument that it's unethical because of factory farming, right?
Factory farming is very unethical.
Pretty disgusting. It's terrible for the animals,
But
especially pigs. Pigs are smarter than dogs, but we treat them like
I don't think
No.
you can fucking go off of intelligence levels for an animal and when it comes to consumption. I think you're kind of digging yourself a hole on that one.
potentially, but I was just using it as an
I
example.
get it though. I get what you're saying, but I think
Where one animal is a beloved pet and another animal's food, even though they're roughly
if you
equal.
go to China, they eat dogs.
Dogs.
So I mean,
Korea.
I think
eat dog there.
I think just like in what was it? I know I heard it. I played the new Mass Effect Andromeda, but I
Yeah.
heard it somewhere else before too, and it was they were talking about if you run into an alien species while you're outside of Earth, like there, I think it might have been Star Trek, that there's a certain guideline you have to follow, and you're not allowed to kill them or engage in combat with them, and if they appear to be as intelligent or more intelligent than you, then they're no longer a food source.
Right.
Which
yeah.
is, I get it. I mean, anything that's dumber than you technically toss up, right? I mean, you eat deer, they can't build. But then again, how do you fucking measure intelligence other than the basis we've laid down as a human? We have nothing else to compare it to other than things that are stupider than us. We've never encountered anything that we can prove is more intelligent than us, and I don't know if that's just out of ego.
I think, don't quote me, but I think I read in an article that humpback whales, have the ability to be smarter than us, but they don't have the physical and in terms of just pure brain power, they're smarter. But we're primates and we're land creatures, so. Right. And we also have opposable thumbs. That's a big, huge evolutionary strength. We can manipulate stuff and make tools and make buildings and cars, and whales can't do that. But whales can create complex musical symphonies, which implies that they have to be advanced
and creative.
Yeah, because I don't even think, again, don't quote me, I'm not a biologist, but I think that I don't even think lower primates can even do that, like monkeys and apes, but whales can. But the other thing is, though, if you're going to say that you can't eat something less than your intelligence, you can eat a chimp, and that's kind of screwed up.
People do eat chimp
in survival situations, and
I know a guy right now who's eating a fucking chimp. He had no choice. He was stuck. He had to kill it. He ate it. It is what it is.
That's just weird.
I mean, I've seen fucking I want to say it was that Steve Ranella from Meat Eater.
He
ate a chimp.
It wasn't a chimp, but he ate a monkey.
He's some kind of monkey.
Yeah.
I mean,
you need a gun to eat a chimp. Chimp will destroy.
Yeah, I misquoted.
Chimp will destroy.
I used chimp as an umbrella term. I shouldn't have. A monkey, I should say.
Ape. Yeah. Monkey.
No, I don't know anybody who's eaten a chimp. I mean, that's a feat.
That's almost you need a high-powered rifle. I'd rather almost.
I don't even know if I'd want it.
Apparently, grizzly bear tastes good. I think Steve Ranella said something like bears taste really good.
I've had black bear and it was really greasy. I'm not saying it wasn't good, but I mean it
was kind of oily.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't bad. I think it was a texture thing. It's a fat animal.
Yeah, they have a lot of fat. That's what makes the meat taste good, though. But yeah, I would have a problem. See, whenever I have these inner discussions with myself in my mind about a lot of my inner monologue is in terms of philosophy or ethics. A lot of it is about meat eating, where it's like, I really know that this isn't right, but I do it anyway because meat tastes great. I know I know a lot of people will say that that's kind of superficial and terrible, just because it tastes good. And I'm like, yeah, because imagine eating bland ass fucking food all the time. It sucks, And I'm not making my main protein source beans. That's not gonna happen, okay?
And same thing with that. Anything that I think people get that fucked up too. Especially that are vegetarians, where we don't eat meat. There's no real proof. I think there's more proof now than ever before that plants have feelings.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's the same consciousness that we have, that's debatable. But I do believe they probably feel pain. At least maybe not like a pain that we could feel, but
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, dude, it takes life to make life.
Mm-hmm.
In any situation.
Well, see, that's the cool thing about if you can have the meat culture, or even more advanced, if you could have 3D printing of food, it would eliminate the need to kill anything for food.
But I don't want to eat that fucking thing. When
But see, that's the thing.
fucks
Is
up.
everybody's got that like ew factor where they're like, that's weird. I don't want to eat it. Like my girlfriend's like that. She's like, I don't want to eat the meat that produces. I'm like, well, why not?
I don't know, man. I get it.
DNA wise and structure wise, chemically and everything, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, as long as it's proven.
Like, and another.
But then farming would get fucked up too, because no longer we say like you need cells from a pig to make a pig in this hypothetical fabricator we've just created. Farming might now change to where you have an animal and there's no guarantee on how many cells from this we need. If you cut off a piece to make a bigger piece, I don't know. But you're going to have like a bunch of, we'll stick with pigs, you're going to have like a bunch of pigs whose only purpose in our life is to get little pieces chopped off of them or cells extracted to feed this fabricator.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't know if that's a better quality of life just because you're not killing them.
I don't know.
And I don't know how pristine these cells need to be either, because say like the pig gets dirty with some shit and some of that shit cell gets in there, now you've made a half a fucking slab of bacon with a turd on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ifs.
There's a lot of X factors involved in it. I'm not sure how it would work, obviously. You know, I'm not a biologist or a geneticist or anything like that, but I would assume that you wouldn't need that much of the animal source DNA to do it. That's my assumption, completely uninformed. But I
think
don't know.
a duplicator would be more.
Yeah, but wouldn't like redundancy eventually
It would
cause
make
a
it
problem?
retarded, probably.
Yeah, because if you made a clone of a clone of a clone of a clone,
Yeah.
I know that creates a kind of a genetic disorder or something, some kind of redundancy.
Same thing like when you take a CD and you burn it.
Burn it over and over.
You burn it from the original, from the pristine copy to the copy you burn, not going to be that much of a difference.
Yeah.
Next one down, you're like, you lose a little bit. By the 100th one you've burnt, it's like, and I'm not talking like from the pristine to the copy. I'm talking you make the pristine, you copy. But I mean, if you constantly have one pristine and you copy, and copy, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. But if you took the pristine, you made a copy of that, then you made a copy of the copy, then a copy of the copy, then it's going to go real bad.
Isn't that weird that there's always that kind of... Here's one thing I'd like to discuss with you in a second. I'm gonna grab a beer. I don't know if you can pause it or whatever.
No, there's no pauses.
There's
It's
no
like
pausing.
Joe Rogan.
Except we're not live.
We're not live yet.
Heisenberg, nice. You got a bottle opener?
Should be one in here.
Okra pickles. I actually bought a jar of that. I'm gonna make some gumbo soon.
Oh yeah,
I'll bring some over if you want to cheat for a day. I don't know if you're still
I
doing
haven't
keto or
been
not.
doing that. I passed out on that shit.
Yeah, I ran out of. I got tired of it.
I fucking was at work and I had like a weird thing happen where it just like, I was doing really good, man. I was shedding weight pretty quick.
Yeah.
I was feeling pretty good, and then just one day I just went into work and it was just like, and I like fainted.
Really?
And I was like, nope. I went and ate a fucking honey bun and I was good to go.
So
I think I had like a huge sugar drop or
Did
something.
Did you get go into shock from eating that? Or
No,
something?
I felt amazing.
Really?
I ate the fucking sugar, I opened Pandora's box and the sugar god came out and I felt great.
Yeah, I stopped doing it, and then like I gained a little bit of weight, but not much of a difference. So I'm like, I'm not sure this.
No, I dropped down from 215 to 200 on it, and I've gained about 4 pounds since I stopped, and that was 2 months ago.
Only 4 pounds.
Only
See,
4 pounds. So I mean, if you want to go on a stint or a jaunt with it, and just
now and then just to
kick
drop
some
the
fucking weight off, I
Yeah.
mean, hell yeah. Not to mention, kale is fucking delicious.
Yeah.
Kale and butter and eggs, shit. Look it up. It was good.
I like kale.
I've eaten
I like
kale
spinach
since
better
then,
than
too.
kale, though.
I've eaten kale since then too, just because I was like, because I think lettuce is worthless, but
Yeah.
kale is like,
Iceberg lettuce
Got a lot in
is garbage.
yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're you gotta eat the darker the leafy greens they are, the darker it is, the better.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, spinach, kale, Swiss chard.
Yeah. But lettuce in
collard
general,
greens.
I mean, I don't think you're eating
No.
cells with water in it.
Like romaine lettuce is like you know how like romaine, well, iceberg is completely garbage. But you know how, like romaine's a little darker than that, but it's still pretty bright. That means it's not bad for you really, but it's not really that good. It's nowhere near as good. Like spinach and kale have a lot of micronutrients and a lot of protein. Like spinach has a lot of protein for a plant, you know. So that's really good to eat.
All right, before we start going down the diet train, what do you want to talk about?
What was I gonna? Oh yeah. So one thing I've really been thinking about, because like Jordan Peterson really jogged this into my head, and I actually listened to this morning. I listened to as a side note, if you want the hardcore histories, I have all of them.
I am listening to The Great Khan right now.
The Wrath of the Khans.
I'm on the 5th one, and that is
What do you
the
think of that?
coolest fucking shit ever.
Isn't it?
I've been blowing everybody I've come across ears off with this shit. Everybody I've talked to on a regular basis is so fucking fed up with me talking about Genghis Khan. They don't give a fuck that his name's not really Genghis Khan. They don't give a fuck about how badass he is, that he captures people and digs a hole and builds a goddamn platform over top of them and has dinner over their dying bodies. Nobody gives a fuck about that, but I find it fascinating.
I listened to, I actually listened to part 1 of Wrath of the Khans yesterday.
Oh, you haven't started it?
No, dude, I've listened to the whole series about 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved it.
But the one thing we can talk about hardcore history for sure in a few minutes if you want, but what I was going to talk about specifically was I listened to an older episode of his called Nazi Tidbits. And it's only about 50 minutes long. This is back when hardcore history was short and it was under an hour. You know, I have all of them. I can put them on a flash for drive if you want.
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
Yeah, and because I'm sure you'd really like all of them.
Yeah, I do.
But they just talked about, generally it wasn't anything about World War II or the Holocaust or anything like specifically. It was more about like the development of Hitler and just how insane that the Nazi ideology and like the whole thing about it, just how much of a cult it was, how crazy it was, and it just really went into detail. But Jordan Peterson really talks a lot about that too, about Nazism and the Soviet Union.
I think,
you know,
if I'm not mistaken, crimes against humanity was never a coinable term until the Nazis.
Yeah, well, I believe it.
That's scary.
The Armenian genocide happened before. Well, crimes against humanity and genocides that's a human history thing. I mean, Genghis Khan, I mean, you talk about a guy who could commit genocide. That guy invented genocide compared to anybody else. He didn't invent it, but Jesus Christ.
He perfected it.
No one had ever reached that level of mass murder in human history. Like, it wouldn't reach that level again until probably the Nazis, you know, or the Soviet Union.
And it's debatable if the Nazis even matched Genghis Khan.
No, they didn't.
It's proven they didn't?
The Nazis killed 6 million Jews, and I think another 6 million, 12 million. Okay, no, I'm wrong. So 12 million in the Holocaust and way more in the war itself, obviously. But if you're only going to talk about but see, so the Nazis probably killed, like, war and Holocaust included, way more than Genghis Khan.
Well, you have a 60 million gap. They say anywhere between 10 million people fell during the Wrath of the Khan, up to 70 million.
See,
you have a 60 million gap to play with, so I don't think you'll ever really know the answer.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is, okay, like, the Nazis had automatic weapons, bombs, gas chambers, locomotives, cars, planes. Genghis Khan had horses and blades and arrows. That's it. And he did that. So I can't help but imagine if Genghis Khan had tanks and airplanes.
Well, he not only had that, he had determination. One of the craziest,
probably the best military ever.
Well, the reason I was getting to that, why it was the best military ever, was something I had never even thought of, let alone heard of. was the idea that he took out celestial insurance.
Yeah.
That blew my fucking mind. That's even a term that you could use.
Appease all gods.
He
So
appeased.
you're not
Well,
wrong.
he was such a gangster that he didn't give a fuck which god you prayed to, as long as you prayed to a god that would hope. He didn't care who the praise came from, just as long as it came.
I love that
Oh
thing.
my god!
Obviously, I mean, Dan Carlin always goes to great lengths to in that series to tell you that any Genghis Khan quote was written after he was dead, so
Yeah.
they're not sure if he really said anything.
Right,
Like,
right,
there's
right.
no recorded. He never wrote anything down. No one directly around him at the time wrote anything down, so they're not. A lot of the quotes that
Probably embellished.
are given to Genghis Khan, yeah, they're not even sure if he really said it. But one of my favorite Genghis Khan quotes is like when he's invading the Khwarezmian Empire and they're praying to God, praying to Allah to save them, and he says, "I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God wouldn't have sent somebody like me against you."
Christ.
What a geez, like just imagine. I love how Dan Carlin always kind of compares it to like just imagine Clint Eastwood on horseback with a sword or whatever. That's how these guys
Clint
talk.
Eastwood, if
you know?
Clint Eastwood fucked the devil and had a baby.
Yeah,
But me and Aaron
the Spartans were
recently,
the same way. You know.
me and Aaron recently got into archery a little bit because we plan on going hunting.
Yeah.
But my bow, compound bow with an 80% let off, is set right now at 60 pounds. So it takes 60 pounds for me to pull it back to here, and then I get 80% of that taken away to hold it back to here.
Yeah.
And then when I shoot it, the cams flip forward and shoot. So it's assisted.
Not back then.
The fucking Mongols were
120
pulling
pound bull?
160
160
pounds straight back.
No assistance.
No assistance, on horseback,
With perfect accuracy.
murking people.
Yeah.
They said that the physique of the Mongols from doing this was changed to deform their skeletons because their muscles in their shoulders were so goddamn big it pushed bones down.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that fucking thing coming after you?
Well, and you know, a good point is that the steppe peoples have always been like that since ancient times, prehistoric times. You know, that's just how they are. Just because of the amount of time that went by with that lifestyle, they almost have like a genetic predisposition to be able to do it. You know, obviously that skill is pretty much useless nowadays with modern weapons and technology,
Yeah.
but back then they were on like one thing I like. One thing I love to do is school stupid white motherfuckers about history sometimes because they're always like, well, you know, they always like to talk about how specifically racist guys who are not
Oh, the whites always win the war. The
not-
whites are
something like
always-
that.
I heard one Nazism thing say that if you take a look at all of the successful nations and rise of civilization in
Yeah.
the world, it was always a white man, which is
Okay, well, and they might not even be racist specifically, but some people will always say, well, you know, Europe is the real deal, right? Or whatever, the kings of civilization. It's like, well, not all the time.
of this century.
Now and before the Middle Ages, like obviously the Roman Empire was pretty goddamn amazing. I mean, back then in ancient times to have a society like that, pretty crazy. But in the Middle Ages, when they always, and the reason historians shy away from calling it the Dark Ages now is because it was a dark age for Europe, but the Islamic world was the center of knowledge and
They're flourishing.
civilization, and China had been advanced for a long time before that, you know. But in terms of like military might, I mean, you haven't listened to the whole series, have you?
I'm on the very last chapter.
You're on number 5.
Number 5.
Okay, so you know what it is then. You know what I'm talking about. Where it's like the Mongols took down all of the steppe peoples first, and they were the ones all the sedentary nations were scared of. Then they took down all 3 of the Chinese states and the Islamic world. What the fuck is Europe gonna do?
Yeah.
They're not gonna fight. They're not gonna stand a chance. They were Europe. History would have been. This is an interesting what-if scenario that I'd love to talk about. Think about. It's like Europe got lucky. Like European civilization, as we know it, and all of history since then,
Because Genghis Khan's son died.
because Ogadai died. If Ogadai hadn't died,
It would have been a whole different story.
they'd be like, "We got everybody but England, and we'll be at England in a month. See ya. You're done."
Well, I love the projection that the Mongols even had. It'll take 17 years, is what they told Ogadai,
completely
to
conquer
completely
Europe.
conquer Europe. They were ahead of schedule by what, 14 years?
Yeah, yeah.
Holy shit!
They made it as far as Eastern Germany.
Talk about a beeline.
They made it as far as Eastern Germany, and the Eastern European nations were probably the strongest at that time.
One of the slickest fucking things I've ever heard of, though, was just the way when the Russian princes were coming out and they're like, "Fuck you, you're a bunch of pussies. We'll
See?
take you." And they took down little subsects that they had laid there, gathered all this fucking livestock that they're, "Oh, we're gonna have a journey ahead of us. We'll take them back to where they reside. We'll kill them on their homeland." They're gathering all this food, slowing themselves way down. They get to that fucking river and they just fucking destroyed them. And they don't believe in spilling royal blood on the battlefield, so they locked him into a box and suffocated him.
They'll find more,
Oh my god.
they'll find a way around that. You know,
Oh
you don't have
my
to shed
God.
blood to kill somebody.
No. Nope. Oh my god, that's fucked.
Or like, I mean, anyone who tried to invade Russia never succeeded. You know, like Napoleon failed, the Nazis failed, and they didn't even invade in winter. The Mongols
Yeah, the
invaded
Mongols
in
waited
winter
for winter.
and won.
Well, the way that he described it was smart as shit, because all their natural defenses they had in Russia became highways in winter.
Mm,
All the lakes and shit that you couldn't get across is now frozen.
solid frozen.
Beeline straight.
Yeah.
Boom. Now what? Oh shit.
Well, and it's not really a surprise to me because in the Middle Ages, the Chinese were the most organized and most advanced, especially militarily, and the Mongols took them out first.
Not only took them out, grabbed the smartest of the bunch and made them work with them and created some of the best siege weapon tactics ever. Ever. Everybody thought, oh, when they come here, we'll be fine. We've got great walls. We have strong defenses. Boom, boom. They're launching human burning fat.
Yeah, or diseased
bodies.
human corpses.
Yeah. What the fuck?
They would have, if their empire hadn't fractured, if it didn't have issues with their government, the Mongols probably could have conquered.
Because they said after Ogadai died, there was a huge uproar and the factions and dispute about who was going to take, because this is the first time the Mongols, after they began their procession across, had to decide who was going to lead that was not a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. But it's kind of fucked up because they were kind of all were related to Genghis Khan, because right in the beginning of that podcast series with Dan Carlin opening up, he said 1 in 500 people to this day that live or that are
ethnic
Asian
Chinese, yeah,
are direct descendants
yep.
of Genghis Khan. So by the time this all went down, everybody was kind of related to Genghis Khan, right? At some form in their family tree. I mean,
well, especially in the Mongol royal family, but like, yeah, but that's again, like the Mongols weren't, the Mongol state itself wasn't invincible to stuff that always happens with states with royalty and monarchy. Is like, well, you have, the king's dead, or in this case, the great Khan is dead, and then you have 6 or 7 heirs, and it's like, well, if there's no direct line of succession, then obviously there's going to be, a fracture in the empire, and that's what happened. And the Mongol state, amazingly, the Mongols did as much as they did in a short period of time, and then went out of existence in just as much a short a time too. They weren't around very long, Whereas it's almost like the opposite of like the Roman Empire, which was hundreds and hundreds of years old and took a long time to deteriorate away to nothing.
Well, they killed themselves. Being
Yep.
gluttonous.
Yep.
And also having...
Piss poor government.
Well, they wanted war with everybody. Anybody who opposed them, but they also...
War costs money.
War costs money, but they also were at war with people in their own fucking community.
Yeah.
You can't be fucking doing that. Which... kind of... I think maybe why the United States has an open door policy.
You know what? I love history, obviously, but I also I like alternate history, fantasy. You know, where like, what if something happened and then you have a new story?
If Hitler survived and
Stuff like that.
Joseph
You know?
Stalin and had a baby through...
Yeah, that would be really screwed up.
It'd have been a girl, by the way.
Oh. That for some reason that's scarier to me, you know. I just pictured a woman with like Hitler's mustache and Stalin's,
Eyebrows.
freaking eyebrows. Yeah. Stalin had weird eyes. Like I can look at like Hitler had piercing eyes, powerful eyes, but Stalin just had this like Russian eyes where it's like, I'm a cold bastard. You can't see through me. At least Hitler had like some kind of soul.
Well, the thing with Hitler is with his piercing eyes are focused.
So powerful. Yeah.
Stalin's was spitting hate and anger in every direction.
Yeah, he looked at everybody as if they were like insects,
Yeah.
insignificant.
Kill them all. Fuck it.
Or at least Hitler had a little bit of sentimentality to existence, somewhat, and as long as it was his. Once he was gonna lose, he's like, then fuck everybody, But one of my favorite things, like I actually wrote because I'm such a nerd, but I wrote my own like alternate timeline, just dicking around one afternoon because I was bored, and I loved the idea of like, okay, what if, and this is like the second time I'd listened to Wrath of the Khans, and I'm like, okay, what if Rome had not fallen and had developed and had gotten stronger and expanded stronger and farther, but eventually the Mongols come around, right? And a unified Europe under Rome is obviously extremely powerful, but the Mongols aren't going to be like, okay, we'll take the Chinese out and the Muslims out, but we'll be cool. We'll be bros with the Romans. Fuck no.
No,
Can you
that
imagine
wasn't
that-
part of their conquest. They
Imagine
wanted to control the entire
Everything.
world.
They thought that they were destined to rule the world,
But the thing...
So
like,
was Rome, though. Rome thought the same
Rome
thing.
was too, and Rome had some clever battle tactics that they implemented on the field. But the thing that made the Mongols incredibly effective was not only the realization, but being able to implement complete and total surrounding of angles.
Yeah, horseback.
And that's why what Dan Carlin was saying in the Hardcore History was a lot of people oftentimes got it wrong about the amount of fucking Mongols that were attacking them.
Yeah.
Their forces they were saying there was 50,000 when there was probably only 12 because they were attacking from all fucking
their
angles.
mobility was so good.
Yeah,
But
and
It's
Jesus.
they're just completely. It's hard to imagine a battle between the Mongols and the way I picture if the Roman Empire hadn't have fallen and it survived till the 1200s. The way I picture it is like how they were at their height, but only a lot more advanced, obviously, right? So, but the Romans were never that strong in cavalry, and the Mongols, there's no one better, right? But the Romans had goddamn good infantry and good ground fighters. The legionnaires, in terms of the ancient world, up until
Fiercest
the
warriors.
development of like gunpowder, were extremely good, and they often beat, just like the Mongols, they often beat people that outnumbered them like 3-1 or something. They also had heavy armor and stuff, but again, all the Mongols would have to do is just do the Romans were way more disciplined, right? So they probably won't fall for the. I would assume
I don't think the Romans were more disciplined than the Mongols.
probably not, but I don't think that they're gonna necessarily fall for the feigned retreat, like a lot of people do.
I don't know, man. That's a good fucking tactic.
But the Chinese were really advanced and they fell for it, you know. So
Yeah, but they were one of the first people that encountered it, though.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I don't know if that was a direct.
The Romans were just as good at espionage too as the Mongols are.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was a direct strategy they used or if they just kind of came across it. But all the fleeing cities and shit that fell apart during the Mongols' crusade, they all ran to people that they were at war with or had been at war with already. So they already had a predisposition to look down at them, saying, "Oh, you're all pussies anyway."
Yeah, you ran.
There was never like, you know, two fucking like really good fucking allied countries that they would go and run to and be like, "Oh, they're coming," and then they'd be like, "Oh, you're a pussy. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know, your infantry's weak. This is why we've been winning the war. You know, ego, suck my dick."
Yeah, that's what the Song Chinese did to the Jin Chinese. Yep. They said, "We're not going to be your ally. If anything, we're going to help the Mongols," which is.
And then the Mongols went and took them out.
In hindsight, that was. I wonder how they felt when the Mongols turned on him. Like, we made a big mistake.
Dude, they fucking opened up that pathway. They ran in there, killed everybody else, hightailed it, got up to them. Not only took everything they gave them, took everything else that they had on them, and like you said, took it back tenfold. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think
we're
that
all
like
brothers of the steppe.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that bullshit.
Ooh.
I just think that a unified Roman Empire would be way harder to manipulate in that way. But I think eventually the Mongols would win. It wouldn't be easy.
I don't think they'd even really necessarily. I think manipulation was kind of a way that they just kind of put in because it worked so well. But if they absolutely had to, they could probably overrun them.
Yeah.
Just pure numbers and determination, and
it would just turn down. It would turn into like it would just be. I imagine it being just a grinding fucking war until eventually one of them cries uncle. You know.
Oh, you don't want to cry uncle if you're not the Mongols.
Because
you're still dead.
Then you're gonna die.
You're dead for. You got to fight that fight to the bitter end.
If you don't surrender right away,
instantly,
you're dead.
Yes. Any form of resistance.
If you surrender after resisting, okay, good for you.
Oh, thank you.
Line up, say goodbye. Get on your knees and say goodbye. This is the end.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the Romans were pretty fucking brutal too, though. They were not as clinical and as genocidal, but they raped and pillaged just as everybody else.
Well, everybody did in that time. That was just part of what you did. I don't know if it was a thing to boost morale or.
But see, that's the other thing, though, is like just the viewpoints are so different in between the two of them, you know. So, but yeah, that's crazy, man. That's a crazy story. When I first listened to Wrath of the Khans, when I listened to the first one, I was like, holy shit. Like, I had a holy shit moment where I just sat there literally thinking holy shit over and over in my head, and I turned it on again and listened to part 1 twice.
I mean, I've only on chapter 4, and I started this about 2 weeks ago. That's because I've had to re-listen
to the other ones.
Because because a lot, what ends up fucking me up is when he uses like Corinthians and like I get mixed up. Okay, who are we really fighting here? You got the Corinthians, the song. There's so many different elements and factions. I gotta re-listen to it to try to go, okay, where are we really at? Because I end up mixing everybody together, and I gotta re-listen. So I've re-listened to each one a couple times.
I looked up like the Mongols and Mongol conquests on Wikipedia to kind of get a really simplified version of it to kind of put it in context, you know. But if you think Wrath of the Khans is, try listening to Blueprint for Armageddon, the World War I thing. I can't do it. I've tried. Like I listened to part 1 and I listened to half of part 2, and I'm like, these are just so long. They're like 4 hours a piece. I can't do it, you know.
I want to listen to the Prophets of Doom.
That is probably my favorite. Yeah. Have you listened to Prophets
of
Doom?
No, I want it. I want to listen to it really bad because that one sounds really interesting.
I've listened to that one 4 or 5 times. Like, Wrath of the Khans is my favorite series, but my favorite standalone one is Prophets of Doom for sure.
Yeah,
you have to listen to that, man. Especially since I know that, especially with the Intelligently Insulting podcast and just you and me and Aaron, a lot of stuff that we're into, since religion can be a big thing for you. You gotta listen to that story. That's another thing I had no idea about. Like what I was gonna go with the Mongol story was like I vaguely knew of the Mongols, right?
Yeah.
You knew you didn't learn anything about them in
No.
school. You know, they
How
don't
did
teach
you
you about
not?
that. And that's such a fascinating story. I'm like, how do they not teach us
Yeah.
about that? You know, and Prophets of Doom was another one. I couldn't believe that. Like, I could believe the Wrath of the Khans. I'm like, that's crazy, but yeah, I believe that it happened. Prophets of Doom is such a crazy story that it's like, that was a real thing. That happened, and the events of Prophets of the Doom is like 400 years after the Mongols. It's like in the early Protestant Reformation, and
Right.
it's a just think of the Waco siege in the Middle Ages.
Okay.
Is kind of what happened in that story.
And ever since I've been listening to the Wrath of the Khans, I've been wanting to learn more about Alexander the Great. Because he
Yeah.
makes a lot of comparisons between those two,
That's-
more than anybody.
I think that's Dan Carlin's like favorite,
Yeah, he loves Alexander the Great. He talks about that motherfucker all the time.
but he hasn't done a series on him.
No,
or
which is
anything.
surprising.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. King of Kings is really good too, though.
They got a lot on there, and I when I saw the price tag on Wrath of the Khans, it was like $10. Fuck, alright, I'll pay it again. I'm like, dude, I'll pay
It was
fucking
worth it.
$100.
It's worth
That was
it.
fucking great. I donated an extra $5.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it, take it, you, because that chick at the end, she's always, if you want to donate, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm here.
Another one is Thor's Angels, and that one's really good too. Yeah. Like I like the modern stuff. I like modern history just as much as anybody, like World War II and stuff. But it's just not as cool. You know what I mean? In my opinion, like Wrath of the Khan, ancient history and medieval history is just so much fucking more badass. To
Well,
listen to.
because for me anyways, once you start listening to the ancient history, it doesn't really seem that ancient because a lot of the certain things are different. Don't get me wrong, but it's all the same premise. I mean, not much has really changed in the human psyche from
Yeah.
back then to now. I mean, a lot of our practices have for sure. A lot of
Or technology,
you know
obviously.
the consequences for our actions is probably one of the biggest things. You can say that's from religion or whatever you want.
The
That's kind of
Enlightenment.
shaped you into,
Yeah.
oh, you really shouldn't kill your brother. Like,
Yeah.
okay, but I mean, just the way everybody today, especially as brittle as it may seem, but all the countries are kind of in agreement that murder is a bad thing. You know, stealing is a bad thing. I mean, you go pretty much to any country and they've got pretty much the same overlining guide rules. Like, these are the laws that you probably shouldn't break.
Well, stealing and murder have always been against the law almost universally in every country, but the difference now, I would say, is that in ancient and medieval times, certain people were just above the law.
Yeah, they
Like,
didn't
the
give
law
a
didn't
fuck.
matter. Like, you know, if you were to keep with the Mongol thing, like if you were
You think any of the Mongols suffered war crimes?
who's gonna? First of all, you got to beat them, right?
Yeah.
The Nazis had to be beat before they could be put on trial for war crimes. So you'd have to beat the Mongols. Good luck, first of all. That's
Yeah.
not going to happen. Second of all, if you did and they went on war crimes, they would just say it was justified.
It's justified.
And then you would just have to kill them, you know. They're not going to plead guilty.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm guilty of doing what was right. in
don't
my
get me
eyes.
wrong. Hitler was a cold bastard, but a lot of his genocide and shit was kind of hush hush.
Yeah, they kept it secret.
Genghis Khan
Mongols did not keep it
did
secret.
not. He went to a whole. What happened? One of his wives' brothers ended up dying in a fight against somebody else. Somebody from this town or city they were in
Yeah.
challenged him to a fight. So he brought like 10. Everybody in the fucking city lined it up in front of that guy's sister and was like, "This is for you." And one by one, chopped everybody's head off. Every single person's head off.
Yeah.
Openly.
That's just the middle. That's the Middle Ages, man.
Oh my God! What kind of message does that send? Also, their thoroughness.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave. You guys all come back from wherever you were. Come out of hiding. Start burying your dead, and we'll come back and finish you off. That's classic exterminator
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, unparalleled, and that's the
Oh.
thing. That's the thing is no one would reach that ability again until the 20th century, until the Nazis came around. You know.
And then discretion became a huge part of it.
Yeah, they kept it secret because if the world knew about it, then all of a sudden he'd be fighting everybody, right?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that's. It's because the Mongols. And if I would make, again, I'm also not a historian, but like if I was gonna make my very amateurish analysis of that, it would be, well, the Mongols were pre-Enlightenment, right?
Right.
The Enlightenment was the revolution, like all of our founding fathers were men of the Enlightenment, right? They wore powdered wigs, and war was very genteel. You know, like Dan Carlin opened with that, right, in the first episode, and it was all about the revolution of like human rights and human liberties, you know, that are granted to all, regardless of where or who you were born to, you know. And that's the reason guys like Hitler and everything kept that shit secret later, is because the entire world would judge you, you know. But before then, go ahead and kill everybody. Back then, might makes right. If I have the power to do it, you can't do anything about it. Are you gonna fight me? You have to beat me.
Right.
You know. But like the concept of, I would say that the concept of international laws and human rights didn't happen until the Enlightenment, you know, till like the 1700s, you know. So the Mongols were several hundred years before that.
1200s.
You know, I mean, you had a little bit of smidgens of enlightenment here and there, obviously. Like the ancient Greeks were pretty progressive, I guess, in terms of that. But even then, they still had slaves.
Yeah.
Women still had no rights. Well, same thing with the Enlightenment.
Yeah,
The Enlightenment,
had
like,
no rights.
if you're a white man and landowner, you have rights. But if you're none of those things, then you still don't have rights. But the ideas were generated in that time, right?
Yeah, this is kind of the first time in history where
everybody
there's
caught
a
up.
country where everybody has equal rights no matter who you are. Even if you have a mental disorder, you have equal rights.
Now I would say,
well, not necessarily, because you can't purchase a firearm if you have mental.
Right. Well,
So-
there's a little bit of little things here and there, but like
Those little things add up, though.
no one's lining us up and chopping our heads off either, you know.
I think they might still be doing that discreetly.
Maybe. Okay, Alex Jones.
No, not figuratively lining us up and chopping our heads off. Like, no. But they're definitely chopping away rights of us.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
definitely trying to conform us into one ideology, even though that we're supposed to be a free state, or we're supposed to be in a free state where you can choose to believe and do whatever you want. But if you don't believe in, say, fucking general or gender equality, all of a sudden you're a fucking fascist.
Hey, we've come full circle.
I'm just saying, man. It's
But yeah, what that reminds me of what I wanted to talk about earlier with Jordan Peterson is like just how, and we kind of spieled into Dan hardcore history, but like just he talked. Did you listen to the JRE with him? The latest one came out a week
Jordan
or two ago.
Peterson?
Yeah. Well, he did a lecture on his YouTube channel about like human disgust response, which is like you see a snake and you're like, ugh, you know, whatever. And that's kind of he applied that to, that's how the Nazis were. The Nazis weren't afraid of the Jews. They didn't hate the Jews for hate itself. They hated them eventually.
right.
But it was the disgust thing. They were disgusted by them.
Dehumanizing.
Yeah, they're vermin. They're rats.
But it took time for them to
actually turn into hate, right? So they didn't initially. When you see a snake or a cockroach, your initial response isn't like, "Ooh, I hate you." It's like, "I'm disgusted.
I don't need to be around you."
Yeah, you're gross. I got to get away, right? But he talks about how like trait openness and trait orderliness in human beings and psychology kind of determine a lot of that and a lot of other things. Like if you're super high in trait orderliness, you're going to make a really good administrator, good military guy, you're very good at organizing everything, and everything's a rigid schedule and whatnot. And if you're higher in trait openness, you're probably going to be more spontaneous or more open, more artsy and stuff. And those two things kind of define, like, almost to a T, like what your political views are going to be. You know, not who you vote for necessarily, but like if you're
Where your morals lie.
well, maybe, yeah. Like if you're going to be higher in trait orderliness, you're probably going to be a right winger more than likely. And if
Right.
you're higher in trait openness, you're more likely to be a liberal, right?
Right.
But Hitler was high in orderliness and openness.
Do you think he was, or he appeared to be?
I can't remember. No, okay, I kind of screwed that up. Like I was right in general, but those two things aren't opposites. I can't remember what the opposite of orderliness is, but like there's like openness and disagreeableness, I guess. And like
Well, either way, it's Republican and Democrats what it ends up boiling
something
down
like
to.
that, right? Hitler
So-
was more open, meaning he was, Hitler. You've seen like videos of Hitler and stuff. He's very flamboyant, and you ask him, and he wasn't like a private guy. You ask, like, Dr. Peterson read this book called Hitler's Table Book and a talk, and it was just all him at dinners and shit and private meetings, and he would just just. I'm not comparing Hitler to Alex Jones. Alex Jones is not Hitler, obviously, right? And I don't want anybody to get mad at me, but I'm just using it as personality example. Hitler was like Alex Jones, just letting it fucking roll. He wasn't a private person, and it wasn't all a conspiracy, but he was also extremely high in orderliness. So that kind of brought to bear his Naziistic views, where like an American libertarian isn't going to be the same, It's just, I just thought it was really fascinating, but it just made me, the big picture that I was trying to get at, though, is just how you were talking about making a copy of a copy of a copy of the CD, right?
Degeneration of it.
And we related that to 3D printing, and and then I just, in my mind, I pictured everything is a spectrum, like all color, all light, heat, temperature, gravity, pressure, human personality, human skin color, human strength, the world around, everything is a spectrum. I know that's super obvious, I guess, to most people, but it's just so fascinating to me. There really isn't a black and white, but
Black and white comes with your degrees of freedom, though.
Mm.
Because when you start talking about degrees of freedom, there's a lot of variances, right? But there are, laws that you have to abide by, no matter what, because you are, there's, say, laws of physics. It's an easy one. I don't know if that's necessarily what you're talking about. But, so there's gravity, so there's that law of physics, so you're always going to be grounded.
Yeah.
And then there's...
Unless you're in a vacuum, right? Unless you're in space.
Right, I mean, there are temporary...
Yeah.
There's temporary objections to this, but, like, you got gravity, which makes you grounded here, so you can't do anything. You have, I don't know, another thing from physics. I'm not a fucking physicist. I'm just saying I know that there's degrees of freedom.
Well, you can't
and
control...
it all kind of boxes you in.
You can't control light or anything, right? Light's its own thing.
Right. So eventually, though, you get totally boxed in. There are ways you can go outside of the box. It's just very difficult.
Yeah.
But that box also creates exactly what you see. When I look at this and I pick this up, I'm not seeing anything around me, but this is smaller than my peripheral.
Yeah.
But I'm focused on just this. But really, I have all of this I can see. But I only see that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
your spectrum
You're limited.
is limited.
Yeah.
But your spectrum is also, in a sense, infinite.
Yeah.
But you limit your own spectrum.
Yeah, that's kind of
By
what I
what
was
you
getting
see.
at. Like all of the big spectrum, it's independent of ourselves, is infinite. But our
So-
ability to experience it is not. I
If
guess.
I'm Hitler and I want to get you to agree with something I am, say there's 6 degrees of freedom, I only need to hit 1 for you, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, it's sitting there. Oh, doesn't matter. They can slide left or right or up and down. Like I said before, I have all this space I don't see. You can move it anywhere, and my eyes are going to follow it. So say, oh, we don't like Jews. Okay, well that's over here. I start looking at it, but oh, by the time this is all said and done, you're going to be a hero. Say you're getting into my fucking envy part. Oh, okay. Keep talking. And you know how he was. He was fucking, like you said, very fucking flamboyant, and moving his arms, and la 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 la. Pay attention to me. And the more people that do it, kind of turns into a hive mentality at a certain point. You're not necessarily even hearing what he's saying, but everybody's cheering. You're like, yeah, me too. I feel it. I mean, whether your message is concise or not, if you get enough people sitting there going, and I think that's less likely today, though.
Yeah.
Because just like the Mongols feigning you out with a couple pieces of fucking meat, people get kind of privy to that shit. And things like the internet, Wikipedia, whether it's real or fake, I mean, the information's still out there to make you question. It's little fact checks you can do now. But, like I said before, I don't think the technology is really helping us anymore. Eventually, with all the technology and everything you can do, like you said, there's going to be no work that you need to do anymore. There's you're going to get stuck. You're going to...
Well, see, that's the thing that they were talking about with that. Once there's no more real work, like Rogan and Sam Harris kind of made the point. It's like, well, now you have all this free time to explore all these other things, like all these skills you want to develop and stuff. And but Dan Harris made a really interesting point. He's like, well, a lot of people are going to have a hard time with that, because a lot of people, their work is their life, and their work is what gives their life meaning, and some people...
You've killed any semblance of a leadership role.
Well, and like
some people are alphas, dude.
Dr. Peterson, I think they talked about that on that one too, where it's like, well, okay, somebody who's higher in conscientiousness, where like, that's the person. That's what I was trying to think of. Where if you're conscientious, you're going to be an industrious. You need to work because that's part of your personality, right? It's like, well, a lot of those people are suddenly going to not have jobs, where the people on the other side in openness and stuff, well, okay, I don't have, sweet. They're going to be like, fuck yeah, I don't have to work. I'll just paint all day or whatever, right? So I think a lot of people, I think Dan Harris is right, and then a lot of people are going to have a hard time when that, like, because now they have nothing to do, and for some people that's an awesome thing. For some people that's a terrible thing,
I know I'm fucking beating a dead horse. I know Joe Rogan's covered it many a times, but god damn it, the more he says it, the more I buy into it, and I bought into it a little bit before he even said it. Humans need fucking struggle, man.
Yeah.
They do. They need conflict.
Yeah, I think I agree.
And, that kind of kills it when they say, I mean, granted, I don't think anybody should be judged upon harshly or too harshly for wanting to live their life as a woman when really they are biologically a male, or being gay and you're attracted to a separate sex. I mean, that's good and dandy, but kind of, I mean, for at least me, shit like that kind of helps determine who you are when people start fucking with you about it.
Yeah.
You kind of builds a passion for it. Like, okay, this is me. This is what I want. Well, fuck you, you're a fag. No, fuck you, this is me, this is who I want, you're going to accept it, or you can't lay down and die over everything. You need to have some passion towards what you're doing in life, or else, what do you got? You're just, if say you're gay and somebody goes, no, you're not gay, being gay is gay. Well, I guess you're right. What?
Yeah, and then you're not being you. You're not
you need some kind of controversy. Now, adversely to that, I'm not saying that you need to go on a gay bashing spree and see everybody that's gay and beat the fuck out of them. I don't think there should be any physical harm. But the mental awareness is the same too. You gotta fight for what you got, man.
Yeah.
You gotta. If you don't.
Well, and that's the other thing, kind of the spectrum thing, is like, well, there's, on one far end is order, and on the other far end is chaos. And if the pendulum swung too far either way, it's bad. Yeah. Like, too far to order is 1984 is Big Brother, right? Nobody wants to live in that society where in that society there's no conflict, right? There's no adversity because you are told what the fuck to do at all times. And but you have no freedom, and because there's no chaos in that system, you don't develop as a person. You're just a gray drone, meaningless. So there's no meaning there. But if you swing all the way to chaos, it's just the wild fucking west. I imagine like a post-apocalyptic, something like The Walking Dead or
You
something.
got a nice hat. It's mine.
Mine
Give it to
now.
me or die.
Yeah, or I'll cut your fucking head off.
And then you got to be passionate about your hat.
Yeah, but then since everything is chaotic, then there's also no meaning there either. So you got to bring it to the center somehow, or at least like, okay, here's the opposites. Okay, you want it within this little area here,
Right.
you know, because like I agree with you 100% that if you're not to the degree of how damaging the struggles are, I will agree that struggles are bad. Like if you're, let's say, I think a good example would be an abusive relationship, right? Say if you're a woman and your man is a thug and he beats the shit out of you, or the other way around. Say you're a man and your wife just takes all your money and fucks around with other guys and drinks and that's it. Well, those are struggles I don't think anyone needs to go through, for any reason.
I mean, I think if you're going to have to go through a struggle, you should at least be confident or at least be able to see that you can overcome it.
You have to, yeah, if there are struggles in your life, ignoring them or giving up isn't what you're supposed to do.
Now, if marriage is a super, I guess if you're going to go through the legal status of getting married and you want to get married to somebody and you're going to sign paperwork and you're going to get together and I want to be with you the rest of my life. I love you. Please marry me. And she accepts, yes, or he accepts, whoever the fuck it is. Doesn't matter. Marriage should be a sanction because you signed a piece of paper that says, this is what I want. I want to be with you for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
However, that does not give the person that you married total and full control over exactly everything you do. It may have in the 50s and the 60s, even the 40s and below, for sure. I mean, you saw crazy shit. Man wears a suit, goes to work, comes home, dinner better be done, house better be clean, and I'm going to leave at 8 and I'm going to go fuck my secretary.
Yeah. That's bad.
Men found a loophole.
But see, I would say, like, I'm not a men's rights activist. I'm not one of those guys. But I would say...
Human's right activist.
Yeah, but I would say that it's come around too far the other way now. Like, that issue, to where, like, the feminist movement has lost their minds, in my opinion, and the court system is completely against men. That's completely obvious.
The court system's been against men for as long as, for some reason, I mean,
as long as we've been
I'm gonna get crucified for this if anybody ever even listens to this.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when a woman has a child, the man does not have any rights to that child.
No, they don't.
Well, I can hear it now. Everybody's screaming at me. Justin, it's because the women gave birth. The women came out of us. That's why the child's important. Well, the child technically kind of came out of me first, into you, fertilized, became a life, and then came out.
But see, we're not so evil to say that, like, we don't understand how 9 months of pregnancy and childbirth is fucking hard. It's terrible.
No, it's
really
gotta
hard.
be, but at the same time,
But that doesn't nullify a man's rights as a father. Sorry.
And unless if
everybody
uses the rape scenario as I have no evidence, and I'm not gonna look up for evidence either, but the amount of women that get raped that have babies, I am sure, is a small percent when you compare it to the women who are in a relationship, get pregnant, whether it's by accident or not, as long as it's not rape, end up having a baby. Rape is like that big. for women that end up having a baby as produced as rape.
I bet I would assume a lot of pregnancies that were the result of rape are aborted.
Well, even so, it's still smaller than the amount of like willingness to have a baby,
Yeah.
and that's not even including abortions. Now, with that being said, you got pregnant as a choice. As long as you weren't raped, right? Whether you were a prophylactic, whether you were on the pill, whether you took great lengths to stop the pregnancy from happening in the first place, you chose to engage in sex.
Yeah. If you did it unprotected.
Unprotected or
Yeah.
protected, whether doesn't matter. The outcome of sex, no matter what, is to have a child. Whether it's great fucking feeling for me, great feeling for you, still, the possibility of having a child is... That's what you do that for. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I was pregnant for 9 months. You chose to. Shouldn't have had sex.
See, that's one thing. That is one thing that really, I'd say, in the big picture around this is like how they seem to like. When I say they, I don't know who exactly I'm talking about, but they seem to like want to pretend that women don't have agency, meaning they don't seem to have control over their actions, but men do. Like I would say in like
Talking about like when they're having their time of the month and then they throw fit or what?
Well, I mean, I'll just say I won't use a specific example. I'll just use like situation A, right? Situation A, a woman does X, but then people are like, well, for whatever reason, she wasn't in control of her actions.
She cut off her husband's penis because he cheated, because she was in such emotional distress she could not.
Maybe. Okay. So yeah, something like that. Where if the situation was reversed and it was a man that did A because of X, they'd be like, you are a bad person. You are guilty. It's like, well,
The man cut off the woman's tit because she slept with her. With
yeah, I
his
think
best
that
friend.
was Bill Burr, right?
Yeah.
But see, he makes
You are a barbarian, and you need to.
Yeah, he makes an interesting point. It's like, they're That's what we need to come back to as America is people are individuals.
Yeah.
No one is a group. Groups don't exist. Groups are, groups exist, but they're pretty much
Groups are formed by individual thinkers.
yeah. Their groups are made up of individuals, each of whom have their own agency in making their own choices, right? And that's the thing that
But
irritates
then
me.
you say that, you can say that, but then if that is true, and you can be in a group and you have your own agency, I want Manson released from prison
Yeah,
because
he claims he didn't do
he
anything.
didn't do anything. He just influenced a group of people to go out and commit
Well,
all these crimes.
influencing
Now, I
people
can
to
tell
commit crimes
you-
is wrong, though, too.
Is
though.
it?
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Or is it because you decided to listen to me and you knew it was wrong?
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, okay, so that's a good example. So
That's a gray area.
if that's when you want to talk, it is a gray area. But well, that's interesting because that draws into the free speech debate, right? It's like, well, what is free speech? So you take a guy like Manson, who caused the Sharon Tate murders and stuff like that, theoretically, allegedly.
Without Manson, there would have been no Sharon Tate murders. But the people that Manson convinced
did it out of their
to
own free will,
commit
right?
did it out of their own free will.
Right. So, what I was gonna say, or even Hitler, we talked about Hitler the whole podcast. Here's a good example. Hitler says, "We need to kill all the Jews," right? To a crowd of 1,000 people.
Okay.
900 people do it, right? 100 people don't do it. Well, he didn't influence the 100 people to do it, so obviously we're not going to charge the 100 people with any kind of crime, right? Whereas the 900 people that did do it, yeah, you're guilty just because he told you to do it. Doesn't. It's like saying, well, I jumped off a bridge because Tommy told me to do it. It's like, well, so what if he told you to do it? You still chose to do it, right?
Right.
That's what makes the group people who commit the crimes guilty, but somebody to influence somebody to commit a crime, that's where you're talking about your gray area, right? But I think.
But there's crimes that are called conspiracy. Like, I conspired to hire a hitman to murder my wife.
Yeah, conspiracy.
So then,
conspiracy
yes,
itself is a crime. Yeah.
I'm okay with that. You can conspire with someone else to commit a crime. That's fine, as long as there's money involved or some kind of mutual gain, right? There was no mutual gain as like a physical item or anything for murdering Sharon Tate.
Yeah, that was just a weird cult thing.
No,
you know?
some people speculate, and I think it might actually came out of Charles Manson's mouth, that it was all to incite a race riot because he wanted it to appear that African Americans
Did it.
did it.
I think I don't know a lot about Charles Manson.
I mean, he did carve a Nazi sign into his head trying to incite a race war.
A race war, right? Yeah.
That was his whole thing. He wanted a race war to happen, and But I've also I didn't read it, but I know there's a book, and I saw an interview with a guy that was in prison with Charles Manson, sorry, and he was a cellmate with him, and said that everything that Charles Manson said, complete and total lunacy. The guy's a fucking nut. So, I mean, but just like if I told you right now on document, I said, Chase, go home tonight, murder your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well, why, Justin? Well, because I think it would be for the better for both of us if she was no longer here. And you went and did it. Should I be charged with murder? Because free speech says I can say whatever I want as long as I don't do anything.
Well, I don't think that's true though, Justin. I think what I was going to say earlier was I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but like I think I don't know if the Supreme Court's ruled on this or whatever, but I think like according to most constitutional interpretation is that in free speech does not include inciting someone to commit a crime. I'm pretty sure. Like you can't say shoot the president, or you can't say go kill your girlfriend or whatever, because you're inciting someone to commit a crime. That's not free speech, according to their interpretation of the Constitution. I mean, it's not like the Supreme Court literally said that's not free speech. Like that would make it the law of the land, right? But abstractly, in terms of like beyond the scope of the Constitution itself, like what as human beings we can literally, because we have a voice box, say whatever we want, right? So that would determine ultimate free speech. But in terms of the law, I think that's against the law.
But wouldn't I have to pretty much prove, if say I said it,
yeah,
and I said, Chase, go home, kill your girlfriend. I don't like her. I don't, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, why should I do that? As soon as you say why, wouldn't that pretty much, unless I can prove you have a mental disability and I took advantage of that?
See, that's the weird thing though, isn't it? Like we can discuss saying, let's kill somebody, but if we don't kill anybody,
it's not a crime.
It's not a crime. But if one of us kills somebody,
right,
all of a sudden we're both guilty. If both of us were involved, we're both guilty of murder. If one of us,
I'd be guilt by association.
You'd be guilty for what?
And
conspiracy?
Technically,
Inciting
I
murder?
would be more guilty than you, because if I never happened, you would have never done that.
That's interesting.
So
I never thought of it
could
that
be
way.
I could be ruled more guilty and have to serve more time or have a harsher punishment than you, because you fell under the influence of my master plan.
That's so weird, though. That's so weird that you can say let's blow up a hospital, and we can talk about it.
Yep.
As if we are not planning to do these things.
Yeah, with our luck, it's gonna fucking happen.
This is all. Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit.
This is all a thought experiment.
Yeah.
This is podcasting, but like, it's interesting that like just discussing it itself is not a crime, but if something happens as a result of it,
yeah,
you could potentially be a crime.
Right. It's conspiracy.
That's so weird.
It's a conspirating.
It's fascinating. I never thought
It's a conspiracy about a conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy about a conspiracy. That is weird.
Conspiring. That is such a giant umbrella term, though, too. Yeah. Conspiring to commit a crime is not a crime. until the crime has been committed.
Yeah.
Then you can be charged with conspiracy, or if the crime was failed.
So, man.
As long as an act is taken in a forward motion to commit a crime, does not even have to fully commit the crime, then it's conspiring to commit the crime.
God, so you got to be careful what you say.
It's the same thing with a drug dealer. If you have X amount of drugs, you now have intent
to sell.
to distribute.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. So, man,
I can't go anywhere else. I can't go to Walmart and buy 300 rolls of toilet paper, and then they're not even gonna bat an eye at me when I'm walking out to go sell it at my store. I don't have intent to distribute this toilet paper. Oh, he's just stocking up. I go buy a couple pounds of weed for my own personal use. It's intent to sell. Arrest this man.
Buy 20 fifths of liquor. I'm sure you'll get a couple eyebrows too.
It doesn't matter. It's illegal. It's taxable. You paid your dues.
Well, isn't that weird though? Is like how you can. The implications of the speech thing is crazy though. Like,
yeah,
you could. That's weird, you know.
No, you're supposed to have free speech. But your speech,
you got to be careful what you say.
Is damning.
Yeah.
So really, you don't have free speech. You can't just say whatever you want. You have the freedom, basically.
You have the freedom to say it, but you don't have the freedom from the consequences as a result of your speech.
Right. You have the freedom.
If you get fired, for instance, if we say something crazy on the podcast, and somebody at our work happens to see it and shows it to the boss, we can get fired. But that's under the terms of the Constitution. It's like, well, the government isn't arresting you for saying it.
Right.
Your rights have not been violated.
I think you could get away from that as long as you haven't signed any paperwork saying that you won't say anything about these people.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like that'd be a hard fight to fire me, especially since I'm in a union.
Right.
If I said anything negatively about my employer, I wouldn't, by the way, but I'm just saying if I did. If I said,
they'd have to take it up with a union first, I would assume, right?
They could try to fire me, but in the thing that I signed, I cannot show blueprints from my work of any of the parts that we make. I'm not allowed to discuss, like, if I find out insider information about, oh, we're about to pull out of the stock market, or oh my God, we're about to have a big layoff and you should take all your money out of the stock. I could be in serious shit for that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think I can say whatever the fuck I want. That's freedom of speech. Right. Now, I don't think I should have to suffer any consequences for my belief system of that company, right?
Well, I meant if you said something like, quote,
Terry's a dick,
or quote, I hate niggers, or something like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, or I hate faggots, quote.
Well, there is hate crimes.
Yeah.
So, but I think hate crimes can only be committed in an establishment.
Yeah.
So, like, as soon as I walk into Starbucks, I'm basically, as soon as I walk into Starbucks, I'm surrendering my rights to use profanity, or,
right.
Because I'm now not in public. I'm in a public establishment. Keywords establishment. I'm no longer in the public.
Mm-hmm.
Public, I think you can pretty much say whatever you'd like. But as soon as you walk into an establishment, you're agreeing to the rules of that establishment.
Yeah, they can kick you out.
They can kick you out, and you're not allowed back in.
Yeah.
So I think if, say, I said, I hate Jews outside of the establishment, I don't think anybody can do anything to me.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a hate crime.
If you're on public ground.
And I think people get hate crimes really misrepresented, because I think I can say whatever I want to somebody, and that's not a hate crime. It's if I say things with intent and then do it.
Yeah. If you say I hate Jews and then you kill a Jewish
person. Like I say, I hate Jews, I want to punch this Jew in the face, and then I punch the Jew in the face, that's a hate crime, because there's clear motive of why. The motive of me punching the Jew in the face is not because he did anything to me other than being a Jew.
Yeah.
Now, if I punch a Jew in the face without saying anything and they try to charge you with a hate crime, I don't know if you can get away with that unless they did some serious digging and found out, say, I was a former Nazi or something.
Who knows? But I know what you're saying though.
But in order to commit anybody of a crime, you almost have to break the law to commit them of a crime.
Sorry, that was kind of funny.
But it's true.
In order to be charged with a crime, you have to commit a crime.
Yeah, in order for you to charge
Really?
me with a crime, a lot of times
Sorry.
you have to commit a crime.
Usually you have to commit a crime to get charged with a... Well, sometimes you don't have to commit any crimes to still get charged with a crime.
Yeah, because somebody else committed a crime.
You can get away with a crime and not be charged with a crime,
Yep.
but a lot of innocent people can be charged with a crime and be like, what the fuck, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, and that's not good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
A jury of 12 people decided
You were guilty?
You
Oh,
did it.
Man. Thank God for, like, DNA evidence and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Saved a lot of people. Here, well, you're free, you're innocent. Yeah, okay. What do I do with the last 20 years of my life that I wasted here?
Nothing. Good luck.
Yeah, that's c'est la vie.
Yeah,
right?
we made a mistake. That's about as good. A formal apology.
That
We're
is
sorry for the inconvenience.
That is so wrong. You know,
What would you rather have them do, man? Do you think you should get paid for those 20 years you were locked up? Who's gonna pay for that?
taxpayers?
Now say if I came up to you and was like, Chase, man, you hadn't seen me in 15 years. Man, I was wrongfully accused. They just let me out. You're gonna have
Now
to
I
give
have
me
to-
some money.
I have to spend time with you all the time to make up for the last 15
Yeah.
years.
I mean, is that okay?
That is kind of bizarre. That's a good analogy. But still, there's got to be something. You know, they got to give him a job or something. You know.
Well,
They gotta
they
nullify
do.
his
They
record. They
exonerate you of
his
all
record,
of that.
yeah,
Well,
okay.
not your record. They can't exonerate you of your record.
Oh, that's so bad.
They can exonerate you of the crime you were committed for, but say you had like a previous misdemeanor,
Oh, well, yeah.
you can't wipe that all
That's
out.
different,
That's
but-
not
But
okay.
they got to erase whatever it was you were in.
Yeah,
jail
you
for
can
20
be
years for.
exonerated for the crime you committed or they said you committed that wound you up in prison, but they cannot exonerate your. They can't just because that's not right either.
No,
Well,
it's
he
not.
didn't do it, but the reason we convicted him in the first place is because he had all these priors that led to a string of possibilities of violence or whatever the crime was.
Right.
We can't exonerate those, but we can exonerate you didn't kill Miss Betty Hamilton in 1947.
Yeah.
You weren't even here.
Yeah. God, that's what a crazy
But now,
life that would be.
okay, that would be a good social experiment. See how many, the next person that gets out, if anybody sees this, I would like them to create a GoFundMe page for the person that gets released. With the full inside scoop, he was wrongfully committed of a crime, woe is him, go fund him. And I want to see just how much money that actually creates.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Because everybody seems to have that same viewpoint. Oh, this is bullshit. He should have not been in there. Now, if that man comes up to you, well, I didn't commit him. Well, 12 other people did. Go to them. Well, technically, we were misled on the evidence. It was just a giant fuck up.
That's so bad.
It's not like getting cold fries at McDonald's and going back and like, these fries are cold. You were supposed to be warm. Oh, shit. Replace them.
Well, shit.
You know?
Or like, yeah, that's interesting. Especially like, you know, hey. Jesus. I lost my thought there.
I'm just saying, man, like, sometimes life's rough.
That's interesting, like especially with like that makes me think of like the charity, the Facebook, like on Facebook where this is such a bad. This is so bad. I shouldn't be laughing, but it was like, God, there's a Facebook meme of like 3 really little African children and they opened like a well or something that was newly installed or whatever, and it's like it's so bad, but I can't help it. I'm sorry, I have a terrible sense of humor. When they lifted it up and all these Facebook like thumbs up things came out of it, they're like, thank God for all those Facebook likes. We would,
Jesus Christ.
but that's true though.
That
like
is
that's
true,
true. Where they're
yeah.
like, yes, all those Facebook likes from guilty white Americans saved us.
Yeah.
That's the extent a lot of people go with charity. They don't actually
Yeah.
do something for charity.
Well,
you
they
know?
make charity really fucking hard to give to, too, though. It's like every other day you look at a charity, you're like, oh, fuck, go and do whatever in Africa and help these people. Oh fuck, the owner of that just got caught driving a Lamborghini and fucking
Yeah.
8 of his maids.
Yep, that's true.
Whoa, shit. So how charitable is this guy? Whoa, well, we didn't really commit a crime because a fraction of the proceeds you gave to my Ferrari went to funding, or
A fraction of the proceeds you gave for my Ferrari. That's bad.
I mean, that's how it ends up boiling down
That's
to,
so
though.
sick. What kind you gotta be a sick person to do that.
Entrepreneur.
No, yeah, sure.
I've seen people that do the GoFundMe page. I worked with a guy. He
Fraud.
he got himself fired almost on purpose. Piece of shit guy. He never served a day of active duty in his life. He was a Marine. And he was like, I live at home with my 2 kids and my wife. I got wrongfully fired from my job. What he did was tell a supervisor to fuck off when they fired him. So he got
Right.
wrongfully fired. And I need money. And then people started giving him money. And it took a couple guys from work that went on the GoFundMe page and break the real scoop. Say, no, quit giving this motherfucker money.
Wow. There was somebody around here that do you remember hearing a year or two ago of that guy who claimed to be a Green Beret down at the Legion post here?
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, there was a guy that he said he claimed he was a Green Beret and he was a Green Beret for 20 years and did
That
all
was a
these
stolen
things.
valor thing?
Yeah, and he did all these awards and he showed up in this uniform and stuff, but somebody else in the post like saw something on his uniform and like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Something ain't right, and they got somebody in one of the newspapers, somebody did some investigations. They found out he served 2 years as like a regular corporal or something in the army, not even anywhere near Green Beret.
Oh, wow.
It's like, wow.
Of all the social justice warrior things that I totally fucking despise, I think the stolen valor shit is pretty legit.
That's pretty.
I'm okay with that. Because if you're gonna serve yourself in the military like that, I mean, that's a fucking commitment, man. Whether
That's so low. To
regardless
do that, you
of
know?
how I feel about
the war
the
itself,
war
or whatever.
itself, I mean, fucking hats off to you, man, if you're gonna join the
Yeah.
military.
Hey,
I-
thank you for serving.
I can't. I thank you very much. I appreciate it, but I mean, other than that, there's nothing really else to say. If you see somebody and you're in the military and something don't look right and they're fucking trying to, I don't know why you would, but people have done it. I've seen it. I mean, fuck them up. Not physically, of course.
Yeah, expose them.
Expose them. Put a stop to that shit.
Yeah, there was somebody. Like I just can't even. It's somebody like Jocko Willink. Who, God, the real deal.
Yeah.
Bad dude. But. And then you get people who just try to ride on that sort of thing and pretend, and it's sick,
I mean, what do you get out of that, really? I mean, just people
I couldn't see
giving you
couldn't-
false praise.
false praise. I think some people really like that, man.
Why?
It's sick, isn't it?
That's a mental disorder in itself. To
Yeah,
sit
it's-
there and
Narcissism,
to sit there and ride off something that you didn't do and everybody's giving you praise for, and then get something out of it.
That would make me feel so gross.
I'd be a
and
piece of
dirty
shit.
inside.
I
Yeah.
would not know.
Yeah, I'd go home and just be like, I want to kill myself. This is terrible.
And I honestly feel a lot of people that are in the military don't even want praise to begin with.
No, most of the vets I know, they don't.
If anything, I think the most thing that a lot of people that are in the military truly want is, if you find out they're in the military, just shake their fucking hand and say thank
say
you.
thank you.
That's fucking. You don't need to suck their dick,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, a lot of the guys I know, like at the Legion Hall and just vets in general, the guys that like to talk a lot, they seem to be, according to the other vets. This is not from my own perspective, but this is from the guys around them. Like, that guy's full of shit. He didn't do anything. Like during Vietnam, that guy was in Germany. They don't like those guys. Those are usually the guys that talk a lot. The guys that actually saw some shit.
Yeah, they don't.
The only guy that I'll say his name because he's passed on was Ray Cowell. He was the only guy that would talk about it. I mean, and you talked to him before too.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
But it took him 60 years before he'd talk about it.
Right.
World War II.
He was a bad motherfucker, bad.
He just said it was war. But
Happen.
he even said to me, he said I didn't go through anything compared to the Vietnam guys. He said we were in a war, but we knew what we had to do and we knew what the enemy was. But Vietnam was just, imagine coming back from a hell like that and then being treated like you're scum. You know, the World War II guys were treated like heroes, even though they're like, we don't feel like heroes. We killed people. You know,
Yeah.
War's terrible. War's hell.
Well, I mean, a lot of the things that happened in World War II, though, it was very like you said before, you need resources to win a war.
Yeah.
And everybody was pushing for, back here, the propaganda was stop buying shit, stop doing this, we need spare parts for tanks, you fucking come on, we're on the final push, help. And everybody's like, if we lose, we're fucked, right? Because I would say World War II is probably one of the most, like, consequential wars if we lost.
Yeah.
We would have been fucked. Especially after jumping in as late as we did into the war.
Yeah.
They would have came and fucked us like the Mongols did.
I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, and I've thought about that too as a what if scenario. I don't know if you've ever watched like The Man in the High Castle or anything like that on Amazon. Have you watched that? That's about Philip K. Dick's novel, which is based on the Axis winning the war, and the Japanese and the Nazis invaded the U.S. from both sides. But I'm thinking, well, the logistics, just the reality of the war, the logistics of the war itself, of the difficulty the Germans had fighting on two fronts, fighting the Western Europe and the Russians at the same time. I think even if we lost, I think the worst thing that would happen in the United States if we lost is like we would lose a lot of trade because the British Empire would be gone and we'd have to go home defeated. But other than that, I mean, we would still be enemies with the Nazis, obviously. But
Right.
I think the Nazis trying to mount an invasion of the United States, that'd be really challenging, you know.
You think it would have gotten a lot easier as they would have continued to win the war?
To develop.
Got more
Potentially.
people. I mean, once you're a leader of a country, you tell them what to do, right?
Potentially. Like, I mean, if the Germans would win against the Soviets and get the oil and mineral resources, that would make a difference. But it's not like we're going to go home, well, we lost, and pretend like the reality of the rest of the world isn't going on. I think America would still prepare for the worst, you know. We're pretty tough.
I don't know about
I'm
now.
not sure if we'd have won. Again, this is like the Roman Mongol thing that we talked about earlier.
Do you feel like right now, if we got invaded by the same size military and they just came over here, do you think, especially people from our generation and the generation past, or not before, after, so like the younger generation of us, do you think we'd fucking fare up?
I don't know. That's a tough question.
I mean, I know that's always a big thing. Oh, the generation, after
Greatest
us
generation.
was pussies. And
Yeah.
that's always going on. Always, always, always. But Jesus Christ. I don't think there's really any real quote on. I think, I shouldn't say any, but I don't think there's really any men anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason to be a man anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's no drive. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so diminished. Everything's so easy.
It's considered toxic masculinity to be a man.
Yeah, you almost get damned for it.
Yeah.
You're too barbaric, or
Yeah.
being a man used to be like, like even busting each other's balls is like a taboo thing anymore. People are so fucking sensitive.
Yeah.
So fucking sensitive. Why?
I don't think the Chinese are going to be very sensitive to you.
No, they
when
still chop up fucking dolphins and
when
eat
they invade you.
fucking goddamn dogs. They
I
don't care
know,
about
man.
us.
That's a tough question. I'm not sure. It would have to happen to see, you know.
Do you think a life and death situation where a bunch of military people came, do you think that our generation and the generation after us is going to fight, or do you think they're just going to be like, it's the way it is now? I think surrender is not only a plausible option, but probably the most likely outcome. Because, I mean, the people in their 40s and above, I mean, yeah, there's still some strong motherfuckers, but how long are they going to last? I mean, really, the younger generations are always the ones that get drafted to war, right? Like, because we got the most fucking oomph, we're the push, we're the, back the fuck up. I don't think that's the case anymore.
Yeah.
people in their 40s and shit, though, I mean, they've been through a little bit. They fucking, I would imagine they still got it.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. On that note, I think we got to cut this off. It's 9 o'clock.
Oh, time to go.
Hey,
all right.
Thanks for listening, folks. Intelligent
Have a
Insulting
good one.
Podcast.
We'll do another one soon.
Justin, Chase.
Have a good one. Yeah, we're gonna have to leave off on that one. That's a fucking
That would have
good
taken us
subject.
another 3 hours.